the river wide, underneath the watchful sky.
What happens when the technology becomes more advanced than the technologist? What happens when the greatest disruption of job and career employment contemporary to our time happens not because of a pandemic, not because of a disaster, if you will, a natural one being that, but because of human innovation? When we look at universal basic income and universal basic services, there's an appeal and there's an attraction to it. There are many programs that are already implemented throughout the world in different various countries, and even those on an experimental variety, if you will, that have implemented universal basic income, meaning that there's a specific amount of capital or cash that's allocated per person or family per month with consistency. But the concern here is that when we look at universal basic income and universal basic services, meaning that there's also with UBS a way for private sector or for public sector government paying per month the different bills that you may have. But in this world that we live in, UBI and UBS and the thoughts and the considerations therein of it is not sufficient. The first problem is that if it's universal basic income, then it must be universal. And right now, the government and private sector are staring in the face of one of the greatest calamities of disruption ever known to humankind. With the advent launch of artificial intelligence and the deployment of small language foundational models, large foundational models, with the different types of AI and the tools and the hardware that's being developed, and incredible platforms such as NVIDIA that are rising and accelerating in capital generation of distribution of hardware and GPUs, if you will, where is all of that hardware and those GPUs going? Well, it's quite simple. It's going to AI infrastructure. And right now, as we gather here today, there are companies, platforms, countries, continents that are preparing and gearing up for the AI arms race. Being that that's the case, with a little bit over a year since the deployment of generative pre-trained transformers in all different types of models, open source and closed, we've already begun to see the disruption in what's happened in the workplace and the residual fallout with the adoption of these platforms. But what we must realize is that we've barely scratched the surface when it comes to what it is that's to be. the greatest disruption to the career path and even startup culture that we've ever known. We hear and we see different frameworks of universal basic income and universal basic services, but the reality is that there's so many different variations of universal basic income and universal basic services that many yet fail to address. The one big elephant in the room is, where will this money come from? Even with the GDP of the United States and China combined, it's sufficiently not enough to be able to take care of all the citizens that yet abide on this world and in their lands. Needless to say, transmetropolitan and transcontinental, there's certainly not enough resources of capital to be able to deploy and distribute by government. Private sector, all the while, is becoming into the trillionaire status. The stratosphere is wide and long when it comes to the income that they can make. Some advocate that this should not be on the heels of government, but it also should be on the heels and in the responsibility of those that are deploying these foundational models, these transformers, if you will. Some make the argument that government should pay. But even if government did pay your universal basic income, is that enough to be able to pay all the bills and the debt that you have, not including your Netflix? But have you seen the price of an avocado and an onion? There's costs that are associated with what it is that we want to be able to live and sustain by. And while we know that sacrifice is a thing that many of us are familiar with, GatherVerse, the reality is, who's willing to sacrifice that much? It's no longer time for us to be able to go into the ideals of a universal basic income and universal basic services. I propose that we need to reset the wheel and that we need a universal basic strategy. And in comes the metaverse, a virtual ecosystem of interaction and communication that's unhindered by flight or visas, where the whole entire world could come together in a cloud consensus to be able to deliberate and express, and to be able to take all these different frameworks that are already out there, that have arrived, that have been in preparation for years, for the time that we're in now, for us to be able to come, join, and gather together with actionable and sustainable impact with the desired outcome. That is the direction in business that we must go in. Yes, we want universal basic income for those that need it. And it's not just those that are already in the chasms of poverty. It's those that you look around that have the 4 and 8 year degrees, that moved here to Silicon Valley and elsewhere. We're seeing all types of fallout happen. That moved to places like Silicon Valley. They come here with an expectation, given the high demand that their job once had, their skills and capability. And for many, what we're starting to see, the artificial intelligence, it's no longer the in vogue quote to say AI won't take your job, but somebody that knows how to use AI will. No, AI is already and has taken many of your jobs. And some of us don't realize that that's happened already. As these models are going into development and training, and as soon as they reach convergence, they reach the consumer index, the consumer field, when adoption begins to happen, and it's already begun to happen, we'll be staring at a situation none of us have never been before, folks. And the idea to be able to have this gather at the emergency level is that important for us to bring together the minds from around the world to begin this cloud consensus. We're happy to have everyone here at GatherVerse You're Fired Summit 2024. We're happy to see all of you joining us from LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, but more importantly and especially GatherVerse.live, where we made it as completely as accessible as we can imagine and think for you to be able to join us. We don't want your money here, but we do ask for a currency that's more valuable than anything that you can give us. Your time, a thing that you'll never get back. You'll spend $1, you'll get that back, a pound, a euro, a rupee, a yen, but your time, you'll never get that back. And we're so thankful and so grateful that you decided in your heart and in your mind, if you will, to be able to give us that. It's time for a universal basic strategy. It's time to think different and to move different. The idea of that we're going to continue to operate as business as we've known it. Some of us came into this world with the idea and the fundamental understanding of how business would operate. Many of us came from generations where we had one foot in traditional world or industrial age and the other foot in the information age. Well, what did we think would happen when a group of people in civilization would get information in the information age? In the information age, they began to build. They began to innovate. They built and created things called applications, apps for short. And so we went through the applications renaissance and we accelerated. And as a consequence of going to the applications renaissance, we democratized access in ways that people have never had before in their devices. And we gave the common man and common woman tools to be able to build and innovate. And then all alongside came the pandemic. Say what you will about it with your politics, but it happened. It was disruptive. This is the greatest disruption of technology that we've ever known contemporary to our time, and it happened. And now all of a sudden, emerging technologies continue to leap and accelerate, and they're now here. They're with us. Our own innovations, our own disruptions. And these are things that undoubtedly we must live with. But GatherVerse community, we cannot afford to wait for a universal basic income and universal basic services. I'm looking for the leaders, the ones that are listening, that are out there, that are going to build the universal basic strategy for human betterment and social sustainability. We have an incredible roundtable with us. May our gather be well.
Hello, and welcome to You're Fired, the Layoff Summit here at GatherVerse. Christopher, that was absolutely amazing introduction. Couldn't have said it better myself, so what an amazing intro, Christopher. But we've got an amazing panel here with us today, and with this roundtable, we're going to be speaking about being laid off in the AI era, preparing for the coming wave. And as we all know, AI is just such a big technology and just changing everyone's lives, and people losing jobs left, right, and center, like Christopher was just saying. And this is a very important discussion to have. So I'm looking forward to this roundtable. So what we'll do is we'll go around the table. We'll start with Dr. Jane, and then we'll go to Asia, Jens, Emily, and Randall. And what we'll do is just quick 30-second introduction from each of you, because there's a lot to get through in this discussion. So quick 30 seconds from each of you, and then we will get on with the questions. So Dr. Jane, over to you.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Dr. Jane. I am a 20-plus year science researcher, microbiologist. Currently, I'm a medical educator at an osteopath school in Billings, Montana. But more importantly, I have been working for the last 15 years to try and innovate a new modality for engaging future learners to really recruit future physicians, allied health workers, nursing students. So my husband and I, we've started a new company, MedMicroMaps, and we're building a cross-platform to actually really bring people into the microbial world to solve these problems. So absolutely going to be addressing about the change in the workforce in healthcare and allied fields so that I can prepare my students for futures.
Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Jane. And that sounds amazing, by the way. Thank you so much for being with us. Asia, over to you. Welcome.
Hi there. It's Asya Vidya Sahedin. That I know, keeps you on your toes.
Welcome anyways. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for having me here. So again, my name is Asia Bribieska Hadin. I'm a leadership coach and trainer, and really I focus on helping mid-career professionals become the type of leader you want to work for, right? That type of boss that you wish that you had, and that you want on your teams when you're at senior leadership in the organization. But I do that by focusing on keeping them promotion ready. And I don't consider myself a career coach. I really am a leadership and executive coach. But here's the reality that I find the only times we've ever felt truly miserable professionally is when we thought we didn't have a choice, which is why this conversation is so incredible, right? If you look back to any time in your life, right, misery comes from having no choice. And when you're promotion ready, by definition, you've invested in maintaining your options and your choices open so that you're always the one choosing what's next in your career versus having a corporate decision or a shift in technology dictate it for you. So I'm excited to be in this conversation because I spend so much time talking about kind of staying a few steps ahead and being the type of person who consistently creates opportunities, not because you're disloyal and want to leave, but because on the contrary, you're actually loyal. And this way you get to continue to choose to stay, not because you have to, but because you want to. So looking forward to this.
Asia, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. And amazing introduction. Jens, over to you. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much. And I'm really blessed to be again with GatherVerse and all you beautiful people. I'm a media artist. I'm co-founder of Lucid World with my creative partner, Sarah de Master. I would like to mention her because she has also been working on the forefront of creative endeavors, what it does actually mean to be creative. She's an actor. I'm a media artist, and we have been dipping both into creating opportunities for ourselves because the job market out there is really harsh. What has been happening lately is we try to find opportunities to collaborate with people who have a different approach to what it means actually to work regeneratively. So basically, why I'm really thrilled to be here is I will probably get a lot of information that comes from the heart and how we can tackle psychosis. I'm thrilled with the work of Emily, for instance, who really tackles on a micro level, on an individual level, what we can do in order to just have a better outlook and probably getting through the victimhood, which comes up when we are laid off, and now it will become an avalanche of victimhood if we are not taking this into our proper hands. And I'm really thrilled to be here and discuss this with you.
Thank you very much, Jens, for joining us, and appreciate each and every one of your time for joining us here today. Emily, over to you. Quick 30-second introduction, and we'll get on with the discussion. So over to you, Emily.
Cool. I feel like Jens kind of just introduced me for me.
Just quickly introduce yourself anyway, quickly, and then we'll go to random.
Yeah, I just in relation to that, I do this series called Mind Bites, which is a monthly series that offers tips and tools to help reprogram your mind. So I wrote a book about the psychology of discrimination, where I learned to understand how we all contribute to racism as a start, and then other forms of discrimination from there. How do we all contribute when we don't realize to the problems that have greater impacts? So I wrote a book about that, another book about the evolution of consciousness, which is called My Brain Explained, a modern conversation of the mind, which is pretty fun. Check out my YouTube page, look up the 100 Days of Color. I did an experiment with the Spotify program where I was able to find evidence of algorithmic bias, which was fun, and have some cool graphics with that if you're interested. But yeah, check me out. It'll be all right if you have any questions on any of that.
Thank you for joining us, Emily. And Jens, if you could mute your microphone too, please. Randall, over to you. Welcome to the table.
Yeah, thank you. What an amazing opportunity to join all of you today. I think back on my career. Currently I am the industry director for telecommunications at a company called Esri, a GIS company. GIS is at the heart of just about anything everybody's trying to get done these days. Looking back at my career, I think back to all these tools I've gathered along the way to try and help me be a better leader, a better worker, a better student, in the times where I've been a student. In my role, I work with telecommunications organizations throughout the world on improving their workflows, improving the lives of their employees and their customers by leveraging what we produce here at the company. But in addition to that, it's all the other resources that our partners and government agencies bring to the table. So I found myself listening a lot, learning, which is just fantastic to join something like this. And then my favorite thing to do is really just help people do things in a little easier way, right? Let the machine do the heavy lifting. We do leverage AI and machine learning in a lot of what we do. But how we can use that to augment our capabilities as opposed to replace is key. So this is a really exciting opportunity to join, and thanks for having me today.
Thank you very much, Randall. And yeah, we're about to get into those discussions, indeed, Randall. So we're going to start off with, well, before actually we do the first question, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Russell Bundy. I'm Director of Partnerships at GatherVerse. So I handle all the partnership sides for GatherVerse. And I'm also the CEO of MadBob, which is a women creators platform where we help women creators across the world, whether it's the music industry, entertainment industries, etc., and provide them a place to, sell their various different sort of like creativity assets, etc., and allow them to NFT them basically on our platform. So that's pretty much for me. Let's get straight into the questions because I want to start these amazing discussions. So the first question is, how can individuals proactively prepare for job security in sectors heavily impacted by AI integration? Very, very important question. And we'll bring in Emily onto this one, and then we'll also talk to Randall because I'm very curious to hear your side of things, Randall. So Emily, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I mean, I feel like from my perspective, like I'm all about mental health and psychological well-being, spiritual well-being, like I see well-being as being, sort of 5 factors. You have physicality, mentality, emotionability, sexuality, and spirituality. So we have to incorporate all of those into our day in some form to look after ourselves. And when it comes to having layoffs and to losing your position, that obviously jeopardize pretty much all of those things because you're no longer able to support yourself and support your family in the way that you need to. And when it comes to universal basic income, universal basic services, however you do it, I've said this on GatherVerse before and I'll say it again, is in this world every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Mm-hmm. And so if we require that people have to pay to live, there have to be people that can't afford to. That's just how it works. That's balance, So when it comes to universal basic services and universal basic income, I see this as a statement of equality, where right now, like nobody has any rights, but our system is designed so that certain groups of individuals are more likely to be able to hire their rights in a way. Like you can be born into a certain body, which puts you into particular privileges, which means that you're going to be surrounded by people that are more likely to have a kind of income that can pay for your needs, your water and your food. Right now, water is a privilege, it's not a right. And we say that it's a right, but it's a privilege because if it was a right, you'd have it and you wouldn't ever have to worry about it. Like if there's something that you feel that you need, but you have to earn it, that's not a right, it's a privilege. That's kind of like where I'm at. So like I think that when it comes to all of this, like we just have to look after ourselves as a priority. And it's kind of weird that we've reached this point where our survivalism is jeopardizing our survival, like we're clinging to this competitive system, this idea of zero sum where someone has to lose so someone else can gain, and it's not necessarily necessary. Right. So like the best thing I can say is like for me, money doesn't have any value. Money is a number on a screen. And if you don't have the internet, you can't even access it. You can't even see it, you know? So I value water, I value food, I value friendship, I value love, I value all those good things. And money is one of the ways that I can access it. So I think that if anything, we kind of need to change our perspective on what value money actually has and what is it we're valuing. Are we valuing the number, or are we valuing what it gives us access to? You know, that's just me.
No, it's an interesting point of view, and you know, there's no right or wrong answers to this question, right? It's everyone's personal opinion and you know what you think, and I see that as a very sort of interesting perspective that you have. And Randall, I'll come to you in a second, but I just want to bring in Asia into this question, because I'm curious to hear how, you know, especially with your clients, how have you been preparing them for the job security, right? In the sectors like heavily impacted by AI. I'm curious to hear your perspective of this as well, and we will get to you, Randall. I just want to.
Absolutely. So first of all, Emily, I love everything that you said, right? And I want to kind of speak more directly to the kind of the immediate changes that we can control as we're seeing a shift in industry, right? This is not new. We're behaving as though shifts in industry that make jobs obsolete is something new. Now, maybe it didn't used to be on computers. It didn't used to be in your hand. I don't know. It wasn't called AI, but it's not new, right? So what have we done in the past? And I think that's what frightens us most and puts us into like this fear spiral of, you know, the world is on fire, because we really are treating it as though it's something that hasn't happened before. That's absolutely incorrect. It's happened many, many times over, right? All of our industries have shifted the way that they work in such a way that the same amount of output or more output requires far less labor than it used to, right? At every level. Right, at every level. So that the rooms of accountants are now replaced by certain types of, you know, algorithms and programs that can handle some of that for you. So I'm going to go back to, you know, what I was saying when I introduced myself, that I really think that our job as individual professionals who are trying to make a living, because we want access to those things that, you know, that financial, you know, that income makes available to us, whether it's the place you live or the type of healthcare you have. And again, agree, maybe those things should be universal and everyone should have them. But given that that's not the case, right, how can we maximize our ability to earn an income and hopefully, you know, have some pleasure and enjoyment in the process? And I really do think that that comes from being always proactively prepared. Right. You can ignore everything after, you know, about being impacted by AI, but always being proactively prepared, meaning you always have a series of opportunities kind of warmly bubbling in the background. You introduce yourself in such a way that people hear how you can solve their problems. Right. You were able to be intentional about the way that we connect with other people's set of priorities. Right. And again, I know that that's kind of big and broad, but really what I want to bring it down to is don't panic. Right. What Emily was saying about just your mindset and your brain, and, you know, just because your brain serves it up doesn't make it true. And just because it's true, it's not the only thing that's true. And it's not the only thing that should be driving the decisions you make and how you manage and moderate your career. So, you know, with that in mind, I would say become the type of person who does outreach to 3 people a day, every day, you know, whether it's on LinkedIn or anywhere else, but be that type of person. Be the type of person who attends a career event every month, even if you're not looking. Why? Simply because it's how you manage a career, the same as you would be managing your finances. A career isn't something, and we've gotten to this place where we think a career is something you settle into, and then I got the job and I'm done and I'm going to wait and see what they do with me next. That's not how that works, folks. You are the chief decision maker. You're the chief strategist, right? You're the CEO of your career. So behave like you're the CEO of your career. What would you do if, you were running your own small company and you knew there was a new technology coming in, right? You would equip yourself.
Facts.
You would, distinguish how you can maybe adopt some of that technology and leverage it to do what you're doing even better. You would see what differentiates what you do from that technology. I mean, I love AI, right? I can ask it to give me, hey, I'm talking about this topic with my leadership group tonight. Give me, 3 exercises we might do to help them reflect. And it's great. Right? It'll give me 10 options and I can choose. It helps me do my job better. But I can also see why it would be scary. But again, if we approach it from the place of, okay, I want to be the type of person that whatever scary thing comes around the corner, I've already got some options. I've got whatever you want to think about, some weapons or some protections or however you want to see that in your head, but definitely not leaving it at the in the hands of either the organization or the economy or a technology or something outside of you and then freaking out about that. Right. So I'll stop there.
I mean, I get it. Absolutely. You can go deep on this, subject and this topic completely. But I mean, just to kind of give a quick summary, right? For example, in the architecture, or not the architecture, but like back in the days when they used to do farming, right? They used to have horses and carriages and stuff like that doing farming, and then tractors come along, right? And then all of a sudden, like, hundreds of people like lost their jobs who were doing the farming lands, and now the tractors overtook it, right? That's just one simple example, but the point is, and what you're getting at is, you just need to be constantly evolving, constantly changing, constantly networking, looking for opportunities out there and saying, hey, what are my options? What are my opportunities? Can I go here? Can I go there? Can I use AI with this? Can I use AI with that, etc.? So completely get what you're saying. Thank you so much. And we're going to go straight on to the next question now. And then Randall, we will get you onto this next question, which is, what are the most effective ways for organization to transition employees into new roles where their jobs are replaced? So when their jobs are replaced by AI. So Randall, perfect person to talk on this subject. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. And, much of what was said on the previous question I would apply here. I think about Katherine Johnson, mathematician at NASA, right? She was employed as a human computer. And that's the kind of role that no longer exists. We have mathematicians that work in the workplace in certain roles, but whether it's a lift operator or a switchboard operator like my grandmother was, warehouse workers, bank tellers, etc., roles change, technology change. We evolve in our capabilities as we're trying to, sometimes do more with less people faster than ever before in order to keep up with the demands of society, whether like in telecommunications, which is the industry I work in. The volume of change in the industry is profound. The ability to keep up with the demand of consumers, say, to deliver broadband access to rural communities or globally, that capability is predicated upon the resources available. So when you think about ways organizations can transition employees into roles that maybe AI is either replacing those roles, or what we see a lot in the telecom area is this augmenting of capabilities in order to meet the demands of society. What an example of that looks like. I speak regularly about what we call bringing the field to the engineer, bringing that natural environment to the desktop of somebody that's trying to plan, design, or operate a telecommunications network.
Right.
Consumer demand needs this much earlier than what companies are able to deliver. Well, as a CEO or a CTO of a telecom company, I've got to identify the skill set and understand my workforce and see where we're lacking in order to keep up with that demand. I see as telecommunications providers as an obligation to not only, know your people, right? Honor the workforce that you have, understand what they're good at, help them gain more tools for their toolbox so that they are capable to, whether it's, we used to use a phrase, keep the brains inside and the brawn outside. Let the heavy lifting be done by something like AI or a machine learning tool that is designed to do, because let's be real, they can do a tremendous amount of big data analysis or number crunching or that sort of thing. But we have to keep the intelligence and honor the wisdom of our workforce. So we got to keep them up to date as to technology trends, where the business is going, and then provide learning opportunities and support to help people have an opportunity to take the training. And then I think also, and to end here, I think, as we transition employees to new roles, one of the biggest things I think each one of us has to have is not only personal accountability for our own welfare and what we're going to do in our career, but we have to be agile and flexible in our mindset and what we're going to do. And much like what was said, we're not going to settle into one career and do the same thing for the rest of our life. Very few roles, I think, get to do that these days.
Absolutely, Randall. I completely 100% agree with everything you said. And, I think also eventually they'll move into other roles. Like, for example, what I mean by that is like how Christopher said, moving into the metaverse, right? And new job opportunities can come up inside the metaverse, which will be alternatives, to having, a job that you might have in person, for example. So I definitely think there's going to be sort of new roles and new opportunities as we go along. And I use the farming example as a great example to that as well. That's not including like the Industrial Revolution and things like that as well. And, definitely there's going to be new opportunities, not just inside the metaverse, but, maybe even potentially coding the AI and stuff like that as well, which these new job opportunities are going to come up with. So absolutely, Randall, completely agree with you. And thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
Thanks.
And Dr. Jane, I want to bring you on this as well, because from a metaverse point of view, which I just spoke about, maybe this could be the opportunity that can transition employees into new roles, right?
Yeah, I'm absolutely, jokingly say I'm a believer, but it has to do with really engaging who your population is. So regarding education, for us, whenever it was the pandemic, it happened so fast and we had to learn all these new programs. And the most effective delivery of it is whenever there was a dialogue with us, the students, the faculty, and our administrators. And so that's something about what can the workplace do and training. And whenever there's a phase out, the communication is important, training is important. And I would love to, especially people who have experience, and my perspective of healthcare, my mom's a 30+ year nurse, is asking your employees who have experience of the old way of doing, what was repetitive? What can we solve from this? Let's get creative. And I think that I love to, especially what Emily was talking about, the fear mentality, where there's so much headlines about the AI is going to take your job. I mean, even the title of this is introducing fear. And saying, well, no, this is a transition. We've done the internet. We've done computers. We've gotten over this. Let us baby step. And so like our school, we were provided access to a webinar series. And I started listening about what tools can I be used. And within a short period of time of that practice, that training, then I started implementing it and using it in creative ways that I hadn't done before. So that's just a really providing opportunities, dialogue, regular communication. Those are such an important roles of the actual infrastructure of whomever your institution for higher education or telecommunications, so that the employees don't lose their jobs, they enhance them.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I just think there's like there's like Christopher said earlier, right? AI is here. AI has already taken over some people's jobs, and I'm not putting the fear into people, just FYI, but it is here and it's here to stay. And it's just about adapting and just finding those new opportunities, which could come up as you go into the future, whether that's inside the metaverse, whether that's a different role inside the company itself, whether that's coding, the AI, etc. And just finding those opportunities and adjusting accordingly, which is why obviously you need to be networking, of course. So I want to quickly welcome Matt Magera. Welcome to the roundtable. We'll bring you on this next question, and then also Jens, we will bring you on this question as well, which is, what role should government policy play in supporting workers displaced by AI, and what models from around the world can we learn from? So we'll start off with Jens, and then we'll go over to you after Matt. So Jens, do you want to kick us off on this question?
I will do my best. I'm not really an expert in government policy as such. Uh, uh, but it's very interesting what's happening now. Me arriving to Basel City, my hometown, and I see how people are in distress because of new technologies rising and the social conflicts that are rising based on what happens during the pandemic. And the Swiss people or the people from my city really try to tackle this from a point of view of, hardline
Like
business.
stop everything kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But this is going to be crazy for everybody. You know, I see that happening, and there is a huge fear induced. So, what I would like to foster companies, or let's say governments, foster is self governance to a certain degree, where we get to understand that we have a say. We get to understand that what our role is and how we can actually disrupt by the mere understanding what we can feed into this whole AI question is of big importance. That's my notion. And when someone is laid off because of an AI taking over, there should be an educational development from within a company where this is happening that fosters, well, you have a lot of opportunities now, to lay out the opportunities that are rising, actually, because the work that has been done by this person is bureaucratic character, and bring in more the creative aspects of a work. And I think creativity is going to solve a lot of problems anyways. So, and I don't think that creativity will be taken over by AI. So I think we should focus on the creative aspects of humanity and community, and really get together with the help of AI, and that foster that kind of developments where creativity is really carrying us through.
No, I mean, you have a good point there. And the thing is, like with AI, like it could, potentially, as it gets more sort of like, let's say they start having emotions, right? And they start becoming like human-like and stuff like that. That's when I think we're going to have a serious problem, especially from a creative point of view, because they will be able to instantly think like humans, be like humans kind of thing. And then, all of a sudden they're creating their own things, right? So I think that's kind of like, we're talking maybe like 10 years down the line, maybe 5 years down the line, depending on how fast AI is going. But I think that's the only sort of side of things which you could potentially have an issue. Yeah.
May I address this quickly?
Sure. Sure.
I think that the same let's call it moral issues are surfacing with virtual reality and augmented reality and XR as such.
Yeah.
It depends a lot what you bring into this medium and what you bring into the field, what you're expecting. So whatever you bring in, well, this will the way what comes out, that's a huge it's a huge question. What expectations do you have? Do you want to do good with this? Do you want to expand in a positive way and in a collaborative way? And for AI, the same is happening. If you instruct AI with aspects of human life that are detrimental, well, you cannot expect AI to tackle this positively for us. So I have the notion that the language learning models have to be addressed with a certain agreement, human agreement. What do we give AI? What do we feed AI with? And so I think that's also something we might want to agree on. Absolutely.
No, I completely get it. And yeah, it's just, I think we're just living through a crazy time, regardless what way we look at it. But thank you for sharing that, Jens. And Matt Magera, over to you. If you could just quickly sort of introduce yourself first of all, and then we'll get into the question of your thoughts on what's happening in your side of things, with what the government should could policy wise play into supporting workers displaced by AI. So over to you, Matt.
Okay, hi. Thanks for the session. So sorry I was a bit late there. I had some bit of issue with my camera, but my name is Matt Magyar. I'm part of a company called Jobsy, based in Nairobi, Kenya. So what we do, we generally provide both job seekers and employers with tools. So on the job seeker side, it's simply helping them get jobs, helping them we actually use some AI tools to help them with their resumes and cover letters. On the employer side, it's helping them with the recruiting process, shortlisting, also some bit of background checking and validating the documents provided by candidates. So that's what we do back at Jobs in a nutshell. About this question, I'm also not a policy expert, but maybe I can give it a try.
It would be,
So when you
sorry,
think
just
about-
to jump in, it would be interesting to hear your perspective on your side of things, like what's happening, over in your continent side of things, etc. So I'm just curious to hear, what's happening there.
So here in Africa, I think the governments are still in the blues when it comes to AI. We haven't yet seen any bit of shake, any bit of policy work. But from a global point of view, I'd say I think government should create a safety net because times are changing. The workforce will change radically in the coming years, and it would be very important for the guys who are going to be displaced to have a safety net, at least have something. I believe Christopher mentioned a universal basic income. So probably this is something we should see more governments down the road adopting to support people being displaced by AI. And with this model has actually worked in a number of countries out there. So it's just picking up the learnings from those countries, figuring out what works, what doesn't, and how can we best put this together to make it work. But I'd say it's highly unlikely that any government will get this right. It's typical of most governments around the world. So there'll obviously be a lot of mistakes and a lot of mishappenings here and there. It's just taking it one step at a time, learning, not putting the gas pedal on regulation, and at least seeing how AI is behaving, what's possible, what's not possible. Because even for the scientists out there, there's still a lot we're figuring out. Everybody's still guessing. Everybody's like, will the models do this? Everybody's in contention. So there's a lot to figure out. But yeah, I'd say there's no correct answer for this. It's just we sit back and watch what happens.
Fair enough, Matt. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to the roundtable as well. We've only got 15 minutes left on this roundtable, so we're going to fly through the questions. So if we can keep the answers as short as possible, straight to the point, that'd be appreciated. I just want to say a quick hello as well to Lynn, Rose Ashford, who's in the comments, Brett Ashton. Hello to everyone who's watching as well. From live, right? So next question is, how can lifelong learning and continuous education be integrated into careers to mitigate the risks of layoffs due to AI? So like I said, let's keep the answers short, please. Asia, I'll go over to you, and then we'll go over to Randall after. So please tell me I said your name right. Please.
That's very close. It's Asya.
I'm trying. I'm really trying.
I know you are, and I love you for it. Thank you. Okay, so keeping it brief, we need to be lifelong learners because, again, the alternative. What is the alternative to lifelong learning? That's assuming nothing's going to change. That's it. That is the alternative, and then leaving our futures in the hands of the hope and prayer that nothing will change, or if it changes, it's in our favor. So, just keeping it brief, get familiar with AI and what it means. See how you can incorporate it into what you do to make your life easier. I like to say that the thing about AI, on some level, it feels like it levels things a little bit because everybody has the same access to the same type of knowledge. But what it actually requires from us is asking better questions. So get really good at asking better questions. Like that is the key to leveraging AI and almost anything, on and offline. So I'll leave it at that. But
thank you so much. Thank you for keeping it brief. And yeah, no, I completely agree with you. The command prompts are so important with AI. So get down on the command prompts. Whatever you got to do, watch YouTube, learn it. You ask AI different command prompts if you need to. Just learn those sort of ways. And Randall, I'll hand this over to you now. What are your thoughts on this question?
I see. I loved what you said. Keep a curious mindset and learn how to use AI. I've been a lifelong learner myself. I'm currently working on my PhD focused on organizational development, leveraging AI for improved workflows. And the most important part is how to augment our own capabilities. All of us right now with our phones, we have some sort of knowledge on how to do something, right? But what we need help with is spreading maybe that intelligence and wisdom. We have a tremendous amount of wisdom that's been gained from generations of our families and friends and colleagues. To be able to take that, capture it, and then leverage it to, for instance, my own research for my PhD, to be able to compile a list of resources or quotes or to find things in a matter of seconds that would typically have taken days to find resources is huge. In the workplace, being able to ask the right prompts to help compile information or to summarize vast amounts of data in seconds that would normally take a team of people days to do is profound. So learn how to ask those questions, but I think in each one of us need to just learn how to be more inquisitive, flexible in what we're doing, and help our organizations become learning organizations.
Absolutely, couldn't have said it better. And yeah, what both of you said is perfect. That's it. You know, you just got to keep evolving. You just got to keep adapting. You just got to keep learning, and you just got to keep moving forward, so to speak, in very simple terms. Now, the next question, and we've only got 10 minutes, so we might have to skip a couple of questions. So we'll do this question, next question, and then the final question, and then we'll round things up. So in what ways can AI itself be leveraged to help workers find new opportunities or train in new skills post-layoff? So Emily will bring you on this one. And then also Jane will bring you on this one as well from a health perspective as well. So Emily, we'll start with you, and if you can keep it brief as possible, that would be great, so we can get some more questions in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward that the AI has so many tools that people can use to create what they have been maybe wanting to do for a long time but haven't found the time. You know, I was the general manager of a grocery store during COVID, and one of my jobs was to work with small businesses and to help small businesses in their startups. And it was amazing how many businesses came out of COVID. And there were so many people that finally found themselves with the time to do things that they'd wanted to do for ages. And it was just a hobby. It was something they enjoyed. And then they had the time and they had the resources. And then they had all of their friends and their peers say, "This is amazing. I want some. Can I buy it? You should make a business." And then they eventually do it. And then they'd come to me with this product and they'd say like, "Oh, you know, I actually just started this in COVID and you know, I'm actually a lawyer. So eventually I have to go back to that." And I'm like, don't do that. You're a cheesemonger. You're not a lawyer. You're a cheesemonger, you know, and you just see like they just light up about it. And I think that like the thing is like with all of these layoffs, and it's awful, but it gives us time. We just have to be able to support the investment of that time financially.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. You're preaching to the choir, Emily. Dr. Jane, over to you. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to give a specific example. So I'm an academic. I have a curriculum vitae that is 14 pages long. I'm applying for a consultant position, and I took the actual job description. I put it into ChatGPT-4 with my CV, and I said, generate a resume that is appropriate for this specific job.
No way.
So you can have individualized training plans plans. I mean, absolutely use these tools. So I talk about this with my students. If they're wanting to go for a residency, what do you need? What is an example of the steps to get you there? And I absolutely, for talking about healthcare, I cannot leave out about simulations. The virtual reality simulations are becoming so incredibly accessible. So even my daughter is 14 years old. We have a career center, so they can do a lot of things to get trained to be an EMT, a CMT, so they can train to be a phlebotomist. And so there really has been, the tools are phenomenal, and they've become so accessible and a lot cheaper because you're not paying the same person to do the same training over and over again. It's been created once and now it's accessible. So there's a lot of tools.
Wow. Yeah. Like, do you know, like, I love VR and AR actually, like just the, you know, that the metaverse, you know, I love that whole thing. And I definitely think, you know, that's going to be so many opportunities and so many tools there which people can use, like how you just said, Jane. So yeah, absolutely agree. And Carol S said prompting is the key. Great point, Asia. So awesome. All right, next question, and then we'll skip to the final question because we've got literally 6 minutes. So we'll do we'll do this question. What ethical considerations should companies prioritize when implementing AI in a way that leads to workforce reductions? Randall, we'll bring you onto this one because obviously you have your own company, and then we'll skip to the last question, and then we'll bring the final question to a close. So over to you, Randall.
Thank you. To clarify, I don't own my own company. I work for the largest mapping software company in the world. Not mine. I wish it was. I think the number one thing we got to consider is just the impact to the daily lives of employees when measured against earnings of a company. When I look back at the career and I look at what companies are doing in telecom, you're trying to outsource as much as possible so you can increase your margin and increase earnings. And where possible, leverage AI and automated workers, robots, drones, etc., to replace those payroll and those healthcare costs, 401k, etc. I think you got to look at that as at a societal level and say, okay, well, what good are we bringing to humanity? Let's keep folks. Let's augment our workforce and their capabilities, but let's also honor our people. So I think it's that scale of looking at leveraging AI and machine learning and automated workers and keeping our investors and those margins happy.
Absolutely. And, I'll talk on this as well. I think also, you could also leverage, other technologies as well. So like how we've spoken about as metaverse and all that as well. But, let's even look at the blockchain side, for example. Like we could even leverage that technology, right, to help, keep more people in the workforce and reduce those workforce layoffs, right? So I definitely think there's multiple different avenues which you can go down other than just AI technology. I get it. AI is a big thing, etc. Use AI technology, use AI in a company, etc. But I definitely think there's other technologies which you can use additionally to allow these sort of workforce reductions to lower that so that you're not laying off as many people. That way you can keep more of your workforce. And if you can keep more of your workforce, that means you're even more productive in your company. So that's just my 2 cents on that. And we're going to go straight to the last question now because we've got literally 3 minutes. So the last question is, looking ahead, how might emerging technologies define the concept of work and employment over the next decade? So we will jump on to Jens for this. Then we'll finish. Well, actually, let's bring Matt into this because he hasn't really spoken much. So Matt will bring you onto this. Then we will finish things up. So Matt, we're going to leave you. You've got the last discussion here. So jump in, get stuck in, and answer the question.
I think what's going to change radically in the coming years, what AI is going to bring is a lot of automation. So we might see the end to a lot of repetitive tasks, a lot of manual tasks, and I think work will be more, what's it called? It will be more technical, more specialist. Human beings will. I see a scenario where us as human beings go hand in hand with the AI, filling in the creative gaps, and then adding that human touch to what AI provides. even today, as we use these AI tools, as we use these LLMs, we realize that AI is only as good as the people using it. It's the biggest career now, I think, is prompt engineering, where we have a lot of guys whose job is just to prompt these AI models to bring in the right feedback. So we might see work changing towards us working hand in hand with AI, just adding that human touch, and as the AI automates and finalizes those manual processes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Matt. And yeah, I believe that there's a lot that could happen in the next decade for sure. And I definitely think that, like how I was saying before, emerging technologies will help reduce the unemployment and, basically create new employment opportunities. I mean, for example, let's look at this from a creative aspect, from Jen's point of view, for example, right? Blockchain technology allows creators, right, to be able to sell their unique work, right, sell their artwork, and even combine it with AI with the blockchain technology and authenticating it. So I definitely think that the different technologies can help with that. And yeah, on that note, I've just looked at the time, so we have to finish up. But do follow every single one of these people on LinkedIn if you want to continue the discussions. And I appreciate every one of you joining us on this roundtable discussion. And I'll finish off by saying, Christopher, our gather was well. Over to you, Christopher.
Greetings and welcome to our first fireside for the GatherVerse You're Fired Summit, where we have Daniel Robbins, who comes to us from Adobe, who's a brilliant designer and a friend. Daniel, how are you?
Thank you. Good morning. And I wish that I could be with you in person. I met Christopher, I think in 2017, when I visited a cool stage that he was helped setting up in the Bay Area. And I've just always been so filled with hope every time I see what Christopher does. He brings resilience, grit, energy. As the world goes up and down and up and down, Christopher keeps going up, and he uplifts everyone in an amazing, inclusive way. So thank you for bringing that to the world.
Thank you, dear Daniel. And you're very kind. And I do remember those times where we were building arguably the biggest holodeck in Silicon Valley many, many years ago, and enjoying each other's company and enjoying the time with all that we had to build with at such a time. Audience, by now, most of us, I'm going to assume GatherVerse community, that we've used technologies like DALL-E 3 and Midjourney and Firefly and other different types of generative models, of diffusion models, if you will, with Sora and other different video models, a runway, if you will. And there's more, Daniel, as you know. I remember seeing some of the very first images of Midjourney and Firefly and more. And it was extraordinary to see the capability of these design platforms and how disruptive they could be for the accelerated development of design. But as you and I know, that truly AI can never replace the human ingenuity and creativity. But as we also know, is that you can have art without technology, but you cannot have technology with art without art. And Daniel, I want to take it there for the moment to understand and have the audience to appreciate, what does design mean fundamentally for technology, for innovation, for business in this AI era?
So I like to think of, in this era now of Gen AI, as there being a pyramid of how we think about how work is going to get done, creative work. At the top, there's going to be people who have amazing skills and talents and want to augment those. They want to do more than they're already doing, but they ultimately they do have the skill to do everything they want to do. They just want to do more of it. The next level down in the pyramid is going to be people who don't necessarily have those skills or don't have the time to do everything they want to do and want to scale their work to include things they can't currently do. I add myself to that bucket. I'm terrible actually at drawing, and so I love that these tools can do that. Or if you take something like a 3D task where, maybe I really like making shapes, but I hate doing texturing, or maybe I like making the scenery, but I don't like doing the animation. So I can be in partnership with one of these systems to do that. And then there's a much larger area, and I don't like bottom because it implies a hierarchy, but there's a much larger part of the pyramid, which is people who don't necessarily make creativity part of their work, but need to make artifacts and need to make things. And this edges over into automation, where you have people who need to just make things at a tremendous scale. I think to get practical about it, what we need to think about is, where is the job loss going to be? And I think there is going to be a large, not in the top tier, those people are always going to sort of have a defensible position, but there are going to be positions in the middle and the bottom area where the conversation and the workload shifts enough toward the AI that honestly we need fewer people to do that. So then the question is, okay, you're now out of a job. What do you do as a creative person, as part of your soul?
Daniel, what do we do though? I mean, and it's interesting. You just brought up just a quick example that I can't design as well, or paraphrase, if you will, but AI could do it for me, if I could put it like that. What happens when these tools that are quite capable, as you and I know, and the GatherVerse community, as well, what happens when we're using these tools in the hands of a layman, a laywoman that are using these tools, and they know how to use it better than a designer, or she has been designing for decades, Pixar on down and everywhere in between?
Yeah.
What is the general sentiment that we're getting from our design community? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? Is there an air of optimism about?
I would say it's mixed. It's heterogeneous. You've got some people with a tremendous amount of excitement and see this as a superpower and a democratization of creativity, or maybe we won't say creativity, a democratization of creation. Maybe without creativity. And then there's people who feel a lot of angst and feel that we are losing a part of humanity by doing this. I tend to think of it as both and. Personally, I come at it with multiple contradictory points of view. One is a selfish desire to be able to create things that I have a really hard time creating. I wake up in the morning, I have these amazing things in my head, but it's so ponderous to put pen to paper, essentially, to bring them to the world. So anything that can help that is great. On the other hand, I do fully acknowledge, having been someone who's been out of work before, that it is demoralizing. It is inequitable. It is really hard to be at the blunt end of these sea changes. And this is happening much more rapidly than it's happened with other sea changes. That said, I do look at the past to learn from it. I remember, when I was a kid and the rise of desktop publishing, there was tremendous angst about what's going to happen to everybody else, graphic designers, essentially. And what happened is, some graphic designers were put out of work, and it enabled a ton of people to make really terrible flyers and posters and things like that. And you could say, oh, there's terrible stuff, but people were able to make something. And ultimately, that's the part I care about, is that a larger number of people who can make something. I don't know who out there today, what child, what kid who doesn't have access to art classes, design classes, the capitalist machine, is going to be able to use some future tool to make something that I can't even imagine. And I don't want to limit that possibility. And again, embracing contradiction. There are people right now who are out of work or will be out of work because there's less for people with formal training to do.
I remember there was a time when we were designing years and quite some time ago. I'll date myself some. And before the applications, or near the applications era, and we're part of the Graphic Artists Guild, and it was a guild that was protecting artists and designers and creatives such as ourselves. For those that are working in industry and business, and you could be a contractor and have protection. You could work in a company and have some type of protection of your artistry. But I don't think that the graphic artists guilds of the world were necessarily prepared for the incoming wave, if you will. And it seems to me, Daniel, that some jobs will be disrupted in ways of earning income based on creativity, and some will never have the opportunity to come back again. such as The Way of the World. And Russell Bundy just in our past roundtable, which was a fire of a roundtable discussion, simply brought up that there were those that were doing things by hands in the fields and the farming generation, and then along came a tractor, and some people never went back the way again.
Right. And some people learned how to fix tractors, and some people, were other parts of the chain. But yes, I completely want to acknowledge and be honest that disruption hurts.
Is it best for an aspiring artist and designer? Because we do know that creativity, if you look at the Art Basels of the world and different venues of distributed art assets, if you will, there's still a market, and it's still a multi-million-dollar, if not near billion plus, in distributed art that's being sold around the world. But be it as competitive as it's ever been, is that the pursuit? Is that what we're telling our 16, 17, 18-year-olds, our 10-year-olds, and saying this is the way to go? If you want to work for Pixar one day, you could. Is that fair to say? Or should we guide them in another way? Or should we allow ourselves to be patient with the process of how this will evolve and to see what might come on the horizon in terms of new opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I hesitate to tell someone to follow their passion, because their passion may take them to a place where they can't pay the rent. And certainly in the country we live in, rent and healthcare are acute issues. And I would never want to turn out a Pollyannish person who's not able to be on their own feet. But as I said, there's this pyramid, and there will be people who have such skill and such talent and such drive that they will be able to find that place, whether it be at the Pixar or the Art Basel or something like that. That said, for the rest of us, because I don't put myself up at that Pixar level, I say that the thing to do is a kind of reinvention. In the previous panel, we talked about training and stuff like that. I would caution a little bit on the training stuff. I would instead say, how can you find your own, personal passion area and bend it slightly and find the narrative in it that does bring more appeal to the current job market. I don't want to say that we're products and we need to market ourselves. It's more about storytelling. And so if I'm talking to a kid and I'm saying, what do you want to be in the future? I would say, okay, what are you really passionate about? And then what maps to that that won't be as likely to be disrupted? I have a 14-year-old son, and right now, and his opinions may change, but right now he wants to be a firefighter. I'm like, awesome. That's not going to be disrupted for a long time. Whereas my daughter's 18, talks about being a lawyer someday. It's like, I don't know, be very careful which part of that you navigate. So back to the kid, you asked, what do we tell the kid who's drawing rocket ships and they want to go forward with that? And I say, okay, figure out which part of that pyramid you play in an honorable way, in a way that really uses your talents, but be very pragmatic about it. Again, being a human being in the world, and we want to bring everyone's soul, but we also got to pay the rent.
Exactly. And as far as our firefighters, our first responders, who we care for a lot with the GatherVerse community, I can candidly see a robot running and justified running it to a house full of flames as opposed to a first responder. And it seems to me here they're doing their level best to be able to build that quickly. Daniel, let's kind of switch gears for a second.
Sure.
The relationship between the artist, the designer, the human in the loop, if you will, and the robot. It's now the human and the machine. And in fact, you can almost do attribution with that. Made by the human and the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at that for a second, that relationship, this evolving relationship, because a lot of times we don't really consider what's happening to our own creative engines by use of these applications. Might we be leveling our own selves up by using these AI platforms when it comes to what's being rendered, how to use it? We've never taken this much information specifically at any given time based on a tool that's available. Now, every day, perceptual sciences, we're perceiving the world and learning every day, every moment, every second. Our eyes are open or our senses are active, if you will. But in terms of actually using a machine and intaking this information, even the creative display of information on video and mobile, Might this provide an opportunity in the creative sense for the artistic community to come together of a cloud consensus and say that not only do we have these models, but we can champion and develop prospectively a new entire industry and way of thinking when it comes to deployment of design? Is that fathomable in your mind?
Yeah, definitely. And I see this as being a thread across lots of activities, from the practical of getting a job and having informational interviews, all the way to having a conversation with an AI agent that is helping you make an artifact, a creative artifact. I think what it takes is a kind of intentionality and curiosity. So when I'm in conversation with one of these AIs, and and I'm being very generous when I say conversation right now, I am using it not necessarily for it to create something, but for it to help me figure out what I really want to do and what I want to make. And for, if it presents me a lot of visual alternatives or text alternatives, I am using those to filter my own thinking and my own desires and to learn more about myself. So, and I really am trying to tie these two threads together of, job finding in this pretty difficult time with being a creative person. When you're out there on the market and you're talking to people, it is not just about storytelling. It is not just about putting yourself forward. It is also about using every opportunity, every person you meet as a mirror to learn about yourself and to figure out, as an artist, as a creator, as a provider, which aspects of myself do I want to accentuate and which parts are going to be in my back pocket for a while till the world might be different. Likewise, when I'm working with these still very primitive systems, these creative systems, I'm deciding which parts of my tool chain, which parts of my workflow is this actually going to help, and which parts is it actually just taking me off track. When we step back from some of these systems, we think, what are the different areas that we need to work on? There's obviously quality. Are there 6 fingers on the hand, or 5? However many. And then there's control. Is the hand where I want it to be? And then there's integration, which is something we don't talk about a lot, which is, how can I take items from the real world, things that are really important to me, and integrate them with the output of these? And that's where that conversation comes back into play.
Daniel,
so that was a long answer to your short question.
But it was a great answer. With our final question here, it comes, it goes, it leaves as quick as it arrived. Daniel, what will you say to the thousands of people that are attending with us today, whether we're rebroadcasting in Meta or Google campuses, if you will, or Linux Foundation, our friends, or HP, and the entire GatherVerse global community? What will you say to the designer, to the leading designers, the artists, those that have a desire to create and to innovate with this looming threat, if you will? What are your words to them?
Well, the first one, with thousands of years behind it, is compassion. Compassion for yourself, compassion for the world. This kind of change does create anxiety, so please have compassion for everyone around you. Understand that most of us at these companies are trying our best to make these things in ethical and equitable ways, while understanding that it does create change. Have compassion for yourself. If you come home at the end of the day and you're just exhausted from trying to keep up with everything. I have never seen a time in my 30-year career in technology where even the researchers, the PhD researchers, can't keep up with all the developments. So again, if I boiled it down to one thing for the creatives in the house, it's please have a lot of compassion. Once you have that, once you're calmer and you're able to acknowledge that, then you can shift into curiosity and start learning more. But that is this is the time.
As it was expressed to some degree, that some of this isn't new in terms of industries and whole entire ecosystems of operations changing, but suffice it to say, none of us have never been this way before. Daniel, we thank you for your time. We thank you for your leadership and guidance on this subject, and our gather was well.
Thank you. And one last word is, if you are someone out there who is interested in upping your game in the design world, maybe you're going through a career transition, feel free to reach out. I can't give everyone my time, but I certainly would love to. I learned from everyone I talked to. So thank you very much.
I suggest everyone that listened to that take advantage if you have a desire to be able to work with an expert and a friend from Adobe and a friend and a community member of GatherVerse. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you very much.
And coming up next, we have an incredible roundtable discussion, AI, the enemy of human productivity, led by Lin Jittao. May our gather be well.
Well, greetings. Okay, let's wait for the rest. Okay. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much, Russell. Thank you so much, Christopher, for the couple of insightful discussions that we had. I think this is just another build-up to this summit, and we are going to discuss about AI, the enemy of human productivity. And with me, I have a group of panelists who are experts and are going to put a premium to this topic. And I would like them to introduce themselves in the quickest way possible. And we shall start with you, Jimara, going on to Vivian. So Jimara, kick us off.
Hi, I'm Jamera Scott. I am a certified AI consultant, and I'm also the founder of No Code for Change, where we focus on building, training, and developing the workforce using AI upskilling and no-code AI solutions.
Thank you. Stefan?
Unmute. Hey, everybody. I'm Stefan Youngblood, Raleigh, North Carolina, and I work with some ecosystems of folks who are involved with AI, tech, and I'm in the DEI space, working from Hire Black to get folks jobs. And we're establishing the first National Black AI Literacy Week. It's coming up on June 9th through the 15th, and a whole lot of amazing presenters are going to be teaching for free courses all through the day, and our Black AI think tank is directing that initiative.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you. Matt?
Hey everybody, Matt Fisher here. I am the CEO of AI Revolution Labs, and we do really 4 things. We align AI strategy with business strategy. We do AI automations where we sometimes automate 20 to 50% of people's companies. And then we also add on-prem LLM models to companies and then do continual advisory work, helping companies stay up to date with where the future is headed.
Great. We welcome you. Sam?
Hey, Sam Cummins, CEO Data Plant. My company helps tackle the biggest challenge of our time, digital empathy. The ability to empathize through digital channels. As we think about jobs, getting opportunities, this is the battle we all have to fight. I'm excited to share a little bit more today.
Wow, thank you for being here. Oman?
Hi, good morning. It's night for me, it's midnight, so good evening to those who are in this part of the world. My name is Umang Verma. I'm a Director of Technology at Oracle. I'm based in Malaysia. I work with large enterprises in APAC, helping them understand the value of emerging technologies like AI, blockchain, big data analytics, etc., and helping them derive value from it. Thanks.
Thank you. You're welcome. Vivian? Vivian, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Oh, apologies. Good morning, everybody. Nice to be here. Thanks to Christopher and all you lovely people. My name is Vivian Gomes. I run a design research organization out of San Francisco in the Bay Area. And it's a part of a larger organization based out of Bangalore, India, called Human Factor Research and Design. We primarily work with the startup ecosystem and governments, both of these, and few enterprises to basically upskill, train, build people's skills up and make them resilient, organizational churns and things like that, problem status that people have within projects. We address those. And primarily our main goal, and which we've been pursuing from COVID times, is to make people resilient with tools and technologies such a way that the advent of AI doesn't build a fear, but rather empower people to take that road. More conversation in today's panel. Thank you so much.
Well, great. And myself, I am the Engagements Director for GatherVerse, and we're very, very happy to have you here. Thank you for giving us your most precious or the most coveted resource that you have, that is your time. And for our audience, please feel free to engage with our panelists. Well, let's kick off. What are the primary concerns about AI diminishing human productivity And how valid are these concerns based on the current evidence? But before we answer that, some of the evidence that I personally did some research on and I found out is there was a statistic by McKinsey where they said generative AI could enable automation of up to 70% of business activities across almost all occupations between now and 2030, 70%. And another statistic was released by McKinsey was uh, McKinsey estimated that AI could contribute up to $15.7 trillion of GDP growth, with automation boosting productivity by up to 1.5%. These are very great evidences, and I'm sure there's so much more to that. And I want to start with you, Stefan. Please help us understand what are the concerns here about diminishing human productivity and how valid are these concerns based on this current evidence?
Yeah, with it reducing human productivity, I think I hate to say it, but it's pretty obvious that it has ubiquitously sort of wormed its way into creating tools to do work that we used to do. And we still do, and now we find hopefully smarter ways to do that work. So when it comes to the education system, I see all type of teaching that's available right now that AI is actually doing. And I see some of the interpersonal relationships that people might have. Initially, they were Googling them and stuff like that. They're now looking to AI. And again, I kind of see it as AI tools. It's not like some spacey thing out there. There are tools that are created to help people do things more efficiently. And those things happen to touch almost every industry I know of. So I would throw that out there. And, I had this amazing conversation with what's the guy's name? Oh man, I'm losing it right now. He works at Oxford University, and he's a director of the Center for the Future of Humanity. His name is Nick Bostrom, and he tries to foresee where everything is going. He created the word super intelligence, wrote a New York Times bestseller about it. And he actually told me that he feels like it's inevitable that us and AI digital will have this symbiosis relationship. And rather than us choosing, hey, we're going to use AI, it's more of a symbiotic thing from here on out.
Wow, spectacular. I see you, Vivian, leaning on. Do you want to add something to that? Or anyone could go with that if you want to add something to that.
I'd be happy to chime in.
I agree with that.
Okay, let's start with you, Vivian and Matt.
Okay.
Or we start. Yeah.
Sorry, I agree with what Stefan said. So I think he's summarized it pretty well there.
Matt?
Every day we're out automating companies. And what we find is that there are definitely groups that their normal jobs will be changed quite a bit. And we also find that there's a lot of new AI jobs. Like we believe there should be like an AI champion in the C-suite in every department below that. And they should meet together and be able to talk about their internal automations for their department. And right now we're struggling to actually find the champions. We try to shift jobs to have champions who are quick learners. They're great at using tools and technology, and sometimes they're not even technical at all. So that's like the pedigree for some of the AI champions that do the best jobs. And as far as human productivity goes, we see that AI does take over like 20 to 50% usually of some of the jobs. If you click it and it ticks like a clock and it's repetitive, that's a good indicator that the job will be able to be automated. And but I do see a bright future Like despite all the craziness, like we've seen this again and again in history. We saw what ATMs did with tellers, and we've been able to come past that. We've seen what many things like the global communications from long distance, offshoring, and we're able to say that like we've come beyond that, you know. So as humans, as a people, we are resilient, and I think we need to not underestimate ourselves, and that's why I believe the future is bright.
Yeah, definitely. The future is bright, and I totally agree with what you've said. We've come a long way, and I don't think this is the best place to say it's now time to give up. Let's leave it to the machines. We've always found a way to do things, and we have always evolved. And I want to go to you, Sam. Stefan has mentioned the symbiotic relationship between machines and human beings. And this question goes to you, and it is, can AI be strategically deployed to enhance human productivity rather than it being a competition to us? And how do we do that, Stefan? Sorry, Sam.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you. Well, I'll start with one thing. I run a podcast called AI for Diversity. We have about 500,000 followers on LinkedIn. And I get to sit down with the brightest leaders pushing the forefront of every industry. And the things that I've heard sitting down with some of the leaders that are working in brainwave interfaces, people that are working with technologies that are redefining and making what's done with OpenAI look like an etch-a-sketch. Like we are on the beginning of sci-fi. Everything that we ever looked for, holodeck, it's possible. If you take what you've seen with Sora out of what's going on with OpenAI and what they have with video production, we are on a path that is really exciting. So I share what Matt's sentiment is, but along the way, there are some threats and there's some challenges to really look at. And that is, this is the biggest gap we are going to see in the haves versus have-nots ever in human history. Right now, the system is broken just like it's been broken with standardized testing. Yes, it's great as a tool to assess. Anybody knows I'm in America, they have the ACT, the SAT. These standardized tests listed for a long time. But those systems become broken because really what happened was most people that had means were able to pay for training. And so when they went to go take that test, they had took the test 17, 13 times already versus someone seeing it for the first time. Magnify that times 100. We are in a position right now where if you pay for premium services for any tool like a LinkedIn or Indeed, you have a leg up. It will tell you how to write your resume better. It'll tell you if you're better fit for the job. It'll tell you who to reach out to. And so what we're seeing, yes, the boat essentially is going to rise as the tide rises for all. But one thing that's going to be different here is that by the companies stratifying the value with AI behind paywalls, the haves are going to have an unfair advantage and the have-nots. And so as we walk along this journey together, I'll share some tricks and some tips that I think everyone should be able to leverage, because the biggest underlying factor that's going to be important for our time right now when it comes to getting a job is trust. And I'll share more about that as we talk further today.
Oh, that's quite impactful. We want to hear more from you. And just to add to that, personally, I use a lot of AI tools which are for free, and some are getting, you have to pay for them. And the premium aspect here and the freemium aspect here, when someone has the premium aspect here, they have a leg over the person who doesn't have them. But again, there's so many tools which are free, and they can be used by anyone, very easy to use. I'm actually impressed. Most of the tools out there are very easy to use. Their user interface, their user experience, they're very, very easy to use, even for someone who is not technical. So for me, I feel like AI is an antidote for someone who wants to increase their level of productivity. But we will find out more. We will see. Let's discuss more into this. And shifting gears, I want to go to you, Matt. This goes to you. What industry have been a significant boost in productivity due to AI, and what other forms of sectors have learned from these examples?
Well, thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Go on, Matt.
Did you say Matt or Umang?
Matt, and then we will go to Umang as well.
Okay. Well, let me lead with we do a little bit with healthcare right now, and that industry you look at the protein study, where it used to take like 6 years for a PhD student to analyze one single protein, and then AI rolling through all the proteins within a few months. And we see that with multiple areas in healthcare right now, where I do believe that like individualized medicine and personalized drugs are definitely in the near future, and that type of productivity is going to be huge. And then as you look at breaking category conventions, how it's used in healthcare and how it can be used in other industries, what I see a lot in our day-to-day work is that in days past, in different industries, there's been software that has, hey, this is the software for the industry and you have to use it. But now we're seeing that people are combining their business strategy with their AI strategy and doing internal automation. So some of the software isn't as relevant as it was in the past. And I think we need to just step back and look at reimagining our businesses and our industries, because we have new tools that have never been around. What Sam was saying just kind of blows your mind. It's sci-fi. And now it's, instead of looking at the past and saying, hey, we build upon this, we need to look at like, what is our goal, and work backwards from there. And I think that can be applicable to any industry.
Yeah, thank you for that contribution. And maybe I'll jump to you, Jamar Scott. How can businesses balance the integration of AI with maintaining and enhancing their workforce's well-being and productivity?
Oh, good. I like this question. So, how can they enhance their work? Go back to the first question where we talked about pretty much integrating. Is it going to boost productivity? AI will take away of those automated tasks. I believe a lot of people's dissatisfaction with their job is because they have to do a lot of tasks, paperwork or repetitive tasks, and they're not doing the job that they're actually hired for. So I believe putting AI systems into their workday where they can focus on being a marketer, where they can focus on being a salesperson, where they can focus on actually, doing the job they're hired for instead of doing, stuff that could be automated, will definitely boost their well-being. For instance, I used to work in sales. I absolutely hated writing emails. Now I don't have to write any emails. So I could just focus on being an extrovert and setting up meetings and communicating. And I think it's definitely going to help with productivity. I believe it's going to help with, just people being overall satisfied with their job. And I am all for integrating AI. And I just want to randomly touch on what Matt said. I 100% believe that we should have somebody in each department that knows about AI, that can, oversee the AI productivity, oversee the tools, oversee everything that's going on. And I believe that the workforce will change with everyone's going to be like a prompt engineer copywriter, prompt engineer marketer, prompt engineer salesperson. I think that's the direction that we're headed in, where jobs are going to be, people are going to just adopt AI and just love it. And like Sam said, whoever is going to be pretty much like a survival of the fittest. If you on it, if you got it and you love it and you embrace it, you're going to be a winner. If you choose you want to do the old copywriting ways from 1960, then you're just going to get replaced. But as far as well-being, I think it's a wonderful thing that's happening right now, because I think we're getting rid of the tasks that people do not like in their jobs. We're passing them on to AI tools, and we're allowing people to actually shine in their natural talents and gifts and things they went to school for, skills they worked really hard on, and we're getting rid of those tasks that kind of slows down the productivity.
Well, I love your perspective, actually. I'm in love with it, because if I can automate the things I do daily and 10x my productivity and scale faster, for me, that's freeing my mind from a lot of stress. I don't know, does someone want to join in on this discussion? I feel like it's a very good discussion. We need to stay a little bit longer with that. Uman, do you want to contribute to that question?
Yes, so my work is largely with enterprises. And here I'm seeing that the conversation has moved from replacement to augmentation, right? So how can AI augment human workers? And there's some very concrete examples of where this is being done. So for example, in healthcare, um, we see, and I do some work, and we all do a lot of work with physicians, with hospitals and diagnostic centers, where, for example, you can look at predicting diabetic retinopathy using retinal images. Now, doctors typically have accuracy rate of 80 to 85%, whereas an AI system gives us accuracy of 95 to 98% at a fraction of the cost. So imagine that you could have a large millions of unserved or underserved population being able to work with AI robots who can detect early stages of diabetic retinopathy and give them the right medical attention. We are doing the same thing for mammograms, doing the same thing for ECG to detect heart arrhythmia. So there, the AI augmentation with humans is life changing, right? Other industries as well, we are seeing, for example, in retail. Now, companies can deploy AI for inventory management and customer service, freeing up employees to focus on the customer experience. So there are some very concrete examples where the AI is augmenting humans and helping them deliver much better outcomes.
Oh, wonderful. So if I'm getting that right with the perspective of augmenting what we are doing, I personally think it's now high time that we now connect more to the emotional part of the business, where we now focus more on the customer, not even the process itself, because AI is taking care of the processes and the procedures that goes into it. But for us human beings, it's now high time to use this opportunity to connect with our customers, to connect with our patients, to connect with our buyers, to connect with our suppliers. So I personally love that elaboration. But let's have a contradictory to that. We have AI. We're not using it for productivity. But what are the risks for over-reliance on AI for critical decision-making processes, and how might it impact human skills development? And just to add to that, let's go with writing, for example. We now see more than ever, so many scripts on social media are written by AI. You can tell this one is AI written, this article is AI written. There's an over reliance that we're seeing on AI. And let's just discuss the risk of over relying on AI. And I want to hand this over to you, Stefan. Then Vivian, please tell us what you think on that.
So this possibly would be sort of an over reliance on AI to actually try this. Oh, look at that. Now that's what happens when AI doesn't. AI's been listening to part of this conversation. I think because we can speak into AI, ChatGPT, and all these things have done things like this, we've moved into a place where it's just a conversation and it kind of moves out the middle place of let me type this and do this. And the thing is, it's not like just this thing that's out there, it's little tools. So if you use Google, your company's already using AI. If you did a text message today, you're already into AI. If you have a bank account, you're already using AI. Email, the same thing. I think we have to understand, first of all of our folks that we're dealing with is already using it in some way. But there's so much that we can do that I actually wonder if it's too much. So I'll just throw that out there. And Matt mentioned earlier that I think it was Matt that we can learn from the past. But I don't know if the human brain has ever had the possibilities that it has now. You know, one website has 17,000 new apps that have come out to do everything. You name it and you could do it. Probably can do my yard. Well, actually, there is an AI, a lawnmower or something. But I don't know how the human brain is going to continue to respond to this amount of information.
Brilliant. Vivian, please add something to that. What do you think? We can't hear you. Your mic is muted. Please unmute.
Oh, sorry about that again. I'm glad this came to me and Stefan. I've been dealing with this on a daily basis almost, and I preach differently. Apologize if somebody differs from what I'm going to just say. That the over reliance is actually diminishing our capabilities as human beings. You look at any tool and any transition that has happened because of machines in life. The ones who got, like, the main idea is the layoff summit. So the ones who got laid off or lost jobs were the ones who didn't prepare themselves. The Bible has a story about these virgins without those oil for their lamps, and they got left out. So coming back to here, the over reliance is already creating generations of people. Like, for example, even today, I don't use Google Maps to go from within some, even in a new city. I use the traditional ways of finding my ways around. I haven't been lost. Most people rely on that when we go in groups, or when you ask certain things. Is that read knowledge that I have or that I read, and I inculcate that within people around me. What am I trying to say is that if we don't feed our brains, we will diminish and deteriorate in our human skills, ability to do certain things. Like, for example, after many days, I went back to my native country, and my brother has this stick driving car. Uh, I was just shocked, for a few minutes. I didn't know how to use it. It just had to recollect my mind, but then I got the hang of it. Otherwise, being used to automated cars or automatic cars or even self-driving cars here in San Francisco, I'm probably losing some of my human skill, and the same is applicable for intellect as well. Searching, integrating, thinking, mathematics. A lot of us cannot do. So I have this term called, with due respect to Google, the Google generation. You ask somebody something, especially a lot of people, young people around me, they pull out the phone and they try to search it. There's no reasoning happening at many times. So over reliance brings that fear. While everything else is good, like any tool, like the advent of hammer removed stone, or the way people did things long time ago, or the way people farm to automated farms today. As we use tools or even AI, it's to augment or to use as a extension to do a lot more. Like, for example, in India, in Mumbai, they make these burger called vada pav. Uh, there are many of them, and they're all handmade. But if you look at McDonald's or any Mac places, they'll be able to scale. That difference is because of automation. Now, one person can handle many machines, and you train them to do that. So our reliance should be in the similar manner of using our, continuing to upskill and be resilient ourselves, at the same time not be over reliant on these tools, including AI. There's a person I'd like to mention with due respect. I follow him and I know him, Gary Marcus. He is one of the best people to strike a balance and tell us the awareness of what's happening. He's a professor at New York University, and one of the 11 people who signed the pause on AI last year. So that's my point.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree with it. Yes, please.
Sure. So, I'm not going to sugarcoat. Everything that we know and love is at risk because of one key thing. These same technologies being applied to key parts of humanity will codify all the worst things of humanity. So whether it's used in law enforcement, whether it's used in healthcare, whether it's used in any of these other areas, the history is fraught with human error, challenge, issues, everything from sexism, racism, any isms that you can put in a bucket. Those things proliferate through the data. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. Anybody knows what happened with Michael Brown and Ferguson? It was proven through the Department of Justice that the things that everybody who was from St. Louis knew, that certain political organizations, certain police departments, they were targeting people to fleece them down for ticket revenue. That essentially was the way that the revenue was made in some of those different municipalities. That would show up in the form of data of over-reliance on certain demographics showing up in ticket violations. If you build a model on that data now, your data would implement and recommend and suggest things that are based off of a previous bias and a previous set of subjugation. So we have a big challenge I think we have to look at across the world and every locale in society is how and what areas might be off grounds. There's one thing if we're using it to decide who we're going to email or not, but it's another if we're sentencing people. It's another if we're deciding who gets healthcare and who doesn't. And just to the point that was made, this is part of the long arc of humanity. I mean, we got rid of farming, but right now, if the power goes out or things happen a certain way, we all don't know how to farm in a certain sense, right? So there's going to be a need to build resiliency in humanity. The last thing I'll mention I think is so critical here, we are going to see the bottom floor of most careers fall out. Most careers generally survive because there's a new group of people that can come into those roles and opportunities. Those junior entry-level roles are going to be disappearing, similar to what we saw with service self-checkout, right? There's less people that can be doing that role. Thus, then there's less jobs, less people can come into the entry, meaning there's less people who get experience, thus can go up the rung. So this is going to put a constraint on our ability to have new people that are able to do these skill sets, but you can't fight it. The battle that we need to fight is the arms race within our locales of ensuring that when it comes to the key parts of humanity, distribution, criminal justice, these areas, we fight hand, teeth, nail, and foot to make sure we get this right.
True, Sam. You're very right there. I would just want to add one more thing is that in support of what Sam said, there was a whole industry called medical transcription. It just wiped out. It just vanished. And same thing. So if they were empowered with tools, in addition to what Sam's saying, we have a lot to do, but by being empowered by AI as a tool to counter these biases. And biases do creep in. There was an app a few years ago, I think 2 years ago, where a lot of people were generating their Greek god self or kings and things like that. And there's an MIT report on it. There were hardly any women who were using that app because the developers, 67 of them, were all male, and they were their backgrounds were from game background and things like that. They input the model with information that they felt was right, and hence the girls, when they tried to use that it did not produce the right results, not acceptable or something that they couldn't publish out there clearly. So biases has creeped in, and it's very important for us to together as a community to address that. Thanks, Sam. That was really good.
Can I just say one thing really quick? I get it that AI can correct some things, but AI has been trained to make the problem in the first place. It's people that's training. That's where I call it a sort of a socio-rhythmic bias. It's the people that are making it. And I don't expect AI to now correct things. I think it's the people behind it who need to have diversity in those places of leadership. It's the people that can help to correct this, not necessarily the AI. But I know that's what you were saying anyway.
True, Stefan. I want to give just one last example and then hand it to Lynn. Dr. Hoosman, in his book called Technofix, an old book, very importantly used in as curriculum in colleges, said that technology cannot fix the problem it creates. He's given examples of the atom bomb and DDT, which he was a part of, saying that it's impossible for technology to fix the problem it creates because of the chain of effects that it does. And as you said, Stefan, it's our job. It's human beings to fix that.
And Limby, before you move on, can I just jump in really quick? I think Matt said this earlier. I think the over-reliance is historic. If you think about what happens when we over-rely on something, we have to develop a new skill. So for instance, at one point, who's the last time we used a typewriter? Everybody was afraid of the typewriter. So what happened? We had to learn, when we started writing with our hands, we had to learn how to use the typewriter. Then we relied on the typewriter. Then when the computer came out, we're like, oh my God, this is the new technology. So everyone relied on the computer to do everything, and everybody was afraid to lose the typewriter. Now we have AI, and I think it's just historic. We're going to rely on the next new thing, but it also develops another skill set. So when's the last time, if somebody gave me a typewriter right now, I would have no idea what to do with it because I developed a new skill. If somebody were to give me like a quill pen, at one point people were relying on a quill pen. It's everything. There's always going to be something new, but it helps us develop another skill. And right now, AI is just another skill that we're going to rely on. We're going to rely on it until the next thing comes out, where we probably don't have to talk anymore. We probably just think our thoughts. So yeah, we're definitely going to be over reliant on it, but it's going to develop a new skill. And I believe Matt has mentioned that earlier, and also Sam, that we're just going to keep on developing these skills and become better at the next skill and the next skill and the next skill.
Definitely. As I'm sitting right here and listening to your expressions, I come to appreciate the essence of GatherVerse, bringing people together and bringing out solutions and talking about what is in their heart and what are the solutions that they are thinking about. And we definitely don't take it for granted. We love this. We love these expressions, and we like humanizing technology, one conversation like the one we are having right now at a time. But let's shift the gears to the sector of education. And I'm going to hand over to you, Matt. How should educational systems evolve to prepare future workers for AI augmented workplaces?
I love this topic, by the way. So our current education system is based on factory workers back 100 years ago. And a lot of those ideas are still alive and well in the way that our education system is processing people and helping people into careers. I believe fundamentally we need to reimagine what education looks like, and it needs to be on a very personal level. So follow me for a second here. So right now, 1 in 34 people in the country who's being born will have autism or be on the spectrum. And you have autism, you have ADHD, you have dyslexia, you have people like Elon Musk and Richard Branson who are on the spectrum, and industry titans and leaders, So AI is really good at mimicking humanity and mimicking data at large, right? So if you look at the data that it'll mimic, a lot of it's probably skewed towards like neurotypical data and how people fit in a box. So people who are with dyslexia or autism or on the spectrum, they've never fit into traditional education. But at the same time, some of them are the business leaders who run all these companies that we're trying to get educated to work at. So I believe that it was a quote from one of my professors in college. She's like, "You have a different way of thinking different," because I have ADHD. And I believe that as AI is proliferated through a lot of things, what we'll see is that the neurotypical, like the people who are on the spectrum or other with some of these conditions will be able to like think differently than AI can think. And with the increased rates, I think we need to look into that as humanity and say like, hey, this isn't a hindrance. This is a superpower. And if we can help these people on an individual level harness that superpower, like our world will open up in new ways that even AI can't combat, because it's just taking the mean data and putting it together, So as we look at that, I believe that education needs to be 3 things. 1, very personalized, and we need to clean up colleges and scrape majors that aren't applicable. And a lot of colleges have a 2-year runway from when a class is introduced to when it's actually doing it. I'm working with a local university on trying to build like AI for their business department, and it's a 2-year runway. And by 2 years, a lot of things will be a little outdated. So first is like, we got to look at neurodiversity. We got to look at the way that colleges are preparing people and make it more individual. And third, we have to really focus down on kind of seeing how things play out. Like, how do we create trainings for AI champions in the business world who are non-technical? How do we create that as a major in college? Like, how do we look at what's going on over the next 6-12 months and rapidly change to figure out like what should we be training people on and what we should be letting AI take over, like some of the lower level jobs. So as we look forward to education, I think AI is going to affect it more than most industries. But as far as colleges, I feel for most deans and everybody leading colleges right now, because it's going to be a long road. And if they don't reimagine and adapt quickly, it won't end really well for them.
Yeah, definitely. That is very heartfelt. And just to add to that, I think education is being refined. It's totally being refined, and it's becoming a full-time career for everyone. If education, if educating yourself is not your full-time career, I'd advise you, this is the high time to become a full-time learner. And because time is not our side, I would love to go this. I would love to continue with this, but we have very few minutes remaining, and I'd like to go to hand this over to you, Jumara. In your role as a consultant, help us understand what new roles and job opportunities can emerge from AI advancements, and how can individuals position themselves to benefit from these kind of changes.
Oh, good. Okay. So it's what Matt was saying the whole time. We're developing as a consultant and a no code for change. We're still working on it. Hopefully to release at the end of June, a no code AI developer as a new position. It's also known as citizen development, but I don't think that's going to go well in the market right now. So we believe that there's a shift that's going to happen where someone's going to have to manage these automations, build these automations, create prompt libraries in jobs, because everyone's not going to be good at AI. They're going to be good at what they can do, but we want to create a actual position where we can put a no-code developer who can create no-code applications faster within 2 days, just for maybe it's a prototype, compared to actual full AI, deployment. So where they can make automations, say that somebody in marketing says, hey, I need this automation really quickly. They can send it over to the developer can get that done in 1 day. So we're working right now to try to build out what that would look like, and then try to launch the first cohort to get students in, and then start developing this, what we assume, this is just an assumption, but we assume that this will be the big next thing, is a no-code AI developer, or like I said, a champion, or someone in the business that knows how to manage automations, knows how to build things using Bumble and Make and Zapier, and just learning the no-code portion of AI. That doesn't take too much skill, it just takes practice. Well, it takes skill and practice. It doesn't take degrees or complex learning.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree with that. That is a very strong sentiment. And I would go to you, Umang. You have worked a lot with enterprises. So, how do we prevent a divide between AI enhanced productivity in large corporations and small businesses that might not have access to the same level of access? I think some had mentioned something of the sort, but Umang, please let us know your thoughts on this.
Sure. So very quickly, this is what small organizations are doing. One is they're leveraging cloud-based AI services so that they can reduce the cost of GPUs, reduce the cost of fine tuning. Second, they are moving more towards small language models and niche applications. So rather than work with LLMs where their cost of running those will be high, focus more on smaller language models which are for niche specific applications, right? So for example, there is an organization called Path AI, right? Now this is a startup which specializes in AI powered pathology, and they are much more successful than traditional radiology organizations. Or there are agriculture organizations like FarmLogs, which provide AI powered farm management software that helps farmers monitor crop health, predict yields, and optimize resources. So leverage cloud-based AI services, use open source AI technologies, focus on niche applications, and then obviously collaborate and network with your ecosystem. Those are some key practical tips.
Very strong practical guidance there. To close us off with this last question, I think this goes to you, Stefan. What are the core frameworks should be considered to ensure AI boosts productivity without compromising human values and employment?
So I hope this gets across loud and clear. I think companies and leaders are going to be subtly looking at the redefinition of what ethical means. So I know this to be true, that when you can say, well, this is ethical, and you explain ethics as a certain way, it sort of becomes like it's not ground and foundation anymore outside. You step into quicksand. So one of the first things is making sure that there's an understanding of what ethics is. And I think that we all play by. If the word ethical can mean almost anything, conscience can mean, well, I think it means this, or, all of these things are being redefined. I think it really changes our whole platform. And I want to say this, I've done some work with using my AI to say, hey, I'm curious, when people get in a room and some of these really smart people are talking about ethics, are you going to be part of that definition? And it said yes. And we know that because people will be on computers and consulting one another. So oddly, ethics is changing, and that's pretty troublesome as the basis of this question.
Oh, thank you. Sam, please close us off very quick. And Vivian, I see you have something to add. I don't think if we have so much time, but Sam, please close us off.
Yeah, well, I think I really appreciate this panel. Again, I love to bring each one of you. I just put a message in there to bring on the AI for Diversity podcast. These are the conversations to be had. One analogy I think is really fun to leave us with. What the graphing calculator did for math, AI is doing for the humanities. Sam Cummins, check us out, Data Plant. You find me on LinkedIn, Samuel J. 314.
Definitely. Thank you. I do not have so much time to give you the privilege for everyone to speak on a closing remark, but I would like to appreciate you. Thank you so much for the very strong panel here, strong discussion, and very, very insightful guidance here. So thank you so much for being here. We were happy to have you, and we look forward to connect with you. Please, if you want to connect with our panelists, feel free. We have the data. We have the profiles and bios on our website. Please feel free to connect with them. Our gatherers as well, welcome once again back to GatherVerse. I'm going to hand it over to Chris. Over to you. Thank you so much, our gatherers.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Greetings and welcome, everyone. We're back after coming from an extraordinary expression of roundtable discussion here at GatherVerse Your Fired Summit 2024. We have a special guest with us today, Mr. Jared Arms, who comes to us from the great state of Missouri and St. Louis, who has joined us before, is doing truly special work, and we're happy to have you with us again, Jared. How are you?
I'm doing great today. How are you, Chris?
Very good, sir. Thank you for being able to join us and be able to once again afforded the time to be able to spend with us in this AI era that we find ourselves in and work in the business, into the spirit, if you will, of this discussion, this topic. We want to talk about the youth for tomorrow's world, what this looks like. And as somebody that's been such an advocate in an extraordinary way of working and being able to deal with the youth communities, not only in this country, but with the world, if you will, and setting a standard and example for ways that we could spend our time to be able to help safeguard our innovations when it comes to our youth. What does this mean in this AI era where we're facing extraordinary prospective layoffs, and layoffs have already begun to happen, but at the same time with great opportunity? What are you seeing in your world of work that you're engaged in presently, Jared?
Great question. Great question. So to be honest, I am seeing a lot of people being feeling startled about the AI. I'm not hearing anyone yet personally losing a job due to this, but I've been preparing for this quite some time. The bank teller from the bank teller to the ATM migration. So what we're trying to do best as possible is just to increase the awareness about this, to let people know that they can jump on board, learn new skills, take advantages of new opportunities, and new industries to come about within this AI space. But that's on the positive side. I guess more so like as an educator, I'm all about, okay, you can do it, you can learn it. If they can create it, we can too. But from a I guess some of the negative aspects of it too, especially when we're talking about underserved communities, single parent households, and then just a lot of different, I guess, stimulations that could probably prevent people from like succeeding faster than others. Um, Retail jobs, just a lot of data entry, food manufacturing type of jobs and things like that. I've been watching some videos just through, online, these humanoids inside of Amazon doing work and things like that. People being distracted, watching them while the humanoid isn't wasting time, looking at the humans working things like that. And I'm like, I'm just thinking to myself, like, you all better quit wasting time and keep loading those trucks up, because just that little split divide right there is important. And at the same time, I'm always thinking about, like, maybe we shouldn't create this future where we just buried on these computers, sitting on these desks every day. Maybe we can use some of this AI from all different type of angles to help us out with daily tasks, so we can enjoy like the more fruitful things in life, traveling, spending time with our friends and family and things like that, based off people hobbies. But I'm sure that's important to all of us. So personally, and then a group of people I'm connecting with, we've been enjoying it. But at the same time, even though I don't know anyone personally who lost their job to it. I made quite some cuts from my development team, using AI for as my marketing team when it comes to content creation, and everything is all positive. But even for myself personally, it's like, why waste time doing this if I could just set the AI to help us out? So that's a broad answer, but
Sure.
I do think it can turn for the worse if we don't try to control it and have like a good narrative to it.
Sure. Here's one of my concerns, and let's talk about this. Walk with me for a moment, will you, Jared?
Yes, sir.
The thing is we have the Elon Musk of the world, who is extraordinary innovator. Say what you will about his politics, extraordinary innovator. He's made recent statements about that there will be a time within the next 24 to 36 months where perhaps all of civilization, or much of civilization, will not have to work again, and that the AI and the robotic armies, if you will, of the world will almost dramatically and completely take over, and that you can work a job if you want, if just for your pleasure, with the considerations of universal high income, as Mr. Musk says. But I think we need to get back to reality here, because the media spin is once again distributing a record that no longer exists in reality. And the reality is we have child labor that's happening in this world. We have human labor and slave labor that's happening in this world, in this country of the United States and elsewhere in the world. And that is true. And so it seems to me that even with the deployment of artificial intelligence, whether in robotic form, Android mech form, whether you're looking at desktop, laptop, tablet, mobile device, whatever device or hardware that it'll be deployed in, it seems to me that you'll still have people that will choose, and those that want to hire humans, if you will, to be able to do an honest day's work with honest day labor. But you'll still have those that will still use humans, good and in a bad way, when it comes to the work of the world. And so the idea that we're heading into this utopian society and global opportunity, if you will, is at best a high delusion of grandeur, and substantially misguiding and misleading for the reality of what we're headed in. And I believe that it's more closer to the grapes of wrath than the grapes of utopia.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely don't think there's any substitute for hard work. What it seems to me, and I'm just speaking from a positive standpoint, is if it'll help us save time and probably have like more precise decisions when we're talking about logic and reason. But like you said, for the bad, it can turn completely different. But yeah, some of the things that he talked about, even getting people to Mars in a short amount of time, it's not logical. It's a lot of stuff that
Why do you think so? I mean, let's keep it real. I mean, the magnitude of what we're facing here, what we look at, the level of disruption that we're thinking about, and with consideration, what did the world think when we were innovating and adopting and subscribing and developing and making and hacking and building and coding and designing? What did the world think that would happen when it comes to this type of level of disruption that's perpetrated on humankind, when it comes to the mass amount of emerging technologies that are starting to bud and fruition, and to be able to bind pair together. And here's the deal. This isn't business as usual. We're not going back to the way that it was pre-pandemic. Those days are 100% officially done. And it seems to me that we must take advantage of the given skills that we have and the work that we have been doing with our communities to not safeguard and make sure that we can assure success today, because in a lot of ways, the efforts of what we can do when it comes for our youth, the impact of what we want to be able to develop now for human betterment, we may not be the recipients of that. But the seeds that we plant today in the farmer's field may grow substantial fruit to benefit for the generations to come.
I totally agree. And I'm really more like, it's, man, I know we got a short amount of time, but it's so many things that's in my head in different projects, but like trying to focus on something that's like for humanity and like planetary based projects, I think would be a great thing, because maybe I'm talking a little too futuristic, but this is the GatherVerse. I know people will be coming back throughout history, hundreds and hopefully thousands of years to watch this, to be able to move forward. But I do think huge things as far as AI, like on a scary way, those coming together to try to, decrypt nuclear weapons. That can be something quite scary, creating a plan where terrorists can hurt more children at these different underserved schools, possibly using AI to search for schools that have like local operators more distant, maybe some without cameras. There's a lot of stuff on the scary side that can play a role in it. But we haven't even really started, like we not even like in the floppy disk stage yet when it comes to AI and intellect and stuff. So it's gonna get more advanced and more smarter, to say the least. So for the people who, I guess, looking at this now, it's like we haven't even touched like the floppy disk stage yet, meaning that we're like super early in it. We haven't got to the big, huge cell phone stage yet, and it costs hundreds of billions of dollars to like create these type of infrastructure. So I do think it's a great thing that people can learn how to use it and learn the skills, and maybe try to do something to take advantage of this wave, because a lot of our customers and things like that are asking us, hey, can we use AI to create this app a little bit faster, versus, the traditional people like, we can use, say, ChatGPT to code this, versus, say, paying Jared or the engineers company. What would be the point? So it hasn't got like strictly black and white, but it is starting to hit that medium to where it's like, well, before we learn how to do it ourselves, we do know that you can use AI to like write it faster. Maybe it may be cheaper for us. And I like that. I like how customers are informing themselves, and when they're working with these businesses, it could probably help them save time and money. But like on a more broader scale, I do have concerns with AI, understanding stuff where it could like reverse DNA structures, create different chromosomes for different atom matters that should not be. My waking up and just my dog looking like a sea fish or something like that. I know I'm kind of speaking a little silly, but with these AI systems being integrated with these hyper multi-dimensional mathematic framework systems, some of these things I'm talking about is like, all right, they starting to move like on like, trying to keep it short and stuff like that. But if I could interject real quick, we have integrated, and we are working on the we call it an HM2F, hyper multi-dimensional mathematic framework, and basically a framework that can use multi-dimensional math to run certain applications. So let's say if a person wants to run a script on the process of H2O molecules, or just a lot of different things that when you equal in these different points, they create a nexus more so than a quantitative state. So trying to create like a math system and integrating that with the platform so these different type of advanced apps can run. It's a challenge, but just in a bigger picture, hopefully being able to find cures to cancer faster, some of these kids that's missing, being able to find them faster when it comes to like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just these events taking place across the world, from tsunamis, hurricanes, just different like, horrific situations where they could probably help. I know they do have things already, but taking it to like a much further thing, trying to prevent stuff as well. I'm trying to gumbo a lot in real quick.
No. But it's good. It's preventative tech. With the few minutes that we have left, Jared, I have to ask, because I know that you've been working with the youth and creating safeguards for innovations. Share with us some of the things that you've been working on when it comes to safeguard tech of innovations for our young people and people, whether it's dealing with human trafficking or what have you.
Great question. 3 of them just off the rip. We just integrated AES, a real secure encryption protocol within our save feature. So when students are using the Collar Coin app to save photos, which we usually have them do things within our workshop, basically we just encrypted it. So like if a hacker or a different app developer was to send some malicious software to their phone and try to hack like the local database, everything is encrypted in real time, and we're using that connected with like Ethereum. So just on the secure side, that's one like important thing. When people uploading content to our platform for like traditional encryption is cool, but having like these decentralized encryptor and decryptor that can only be, I guess, authenticated with the cryptocurrency, with the student's wallet. So that's like one huge thing. A second thing is, of course, we're working with law enforcement. So we started off about, I would say almost 8 years ago now, working with like St. Louis City, St. Louis County Police Department to try to collaborate with them and humanize the community by initially launching these nonviolent video game development tournaments. We started off working with Microsoft. They donated or allowed us to use their Microsoft store in the Galleria for about 4 to 6 hours. We had 20 officers come out, different universities, and we were just like playing video games with the kids and at the core trying to prevent like another 2014 situation with Mike Brown. So that's one huge part. Since then, we've been creating relationships with the FBI, specifically the Community Outreach Department in Phoenix, Arizona. So we'll be doing more things with them next year, as well as 2026, expanding our awareness for missing children within America and the world, but more so like out here in Phoenix. And then lastly, we launched this decoy program last month where we work, myself and others basically come together, do these hackathons for about 3 days at a time, where we work online, posing as minor decoys, trying to entrap and expose online adult sex predators, basically. And just to say the least, we've been able to not capture as far as getting them locked up, but far as getting their photos. Unfortunately, these people have sent some very threatening messages, very illegal, explicit content. So we've been able to, the database, he's just been at least 100 a day. And it's quite, and you know, posing as 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and then you got at the average at least age 30 and up, and they saying stuff like, you know, are you home alone? We want to come home. We want to do the R word to you. And with us being able to create these honeypots, send this information to hopefully the right law enforcement and create this database, even though everyone isn't getting incarcerated at the moment, we've still been able to distract a lot of people online from connecting with these children. And I can go on and on and on, but adding encryption to the content that the kids upload to make sure that other people can't see what they're uploading, especially say like if a mom or a dad is uploading a picture of their baby like in the tub just for friends and family. So you want that to be all pictures to be encrypted, but specifically those. Working with law enforcement and then joining forces with the FBI Community Outreach Center, and then these minor decoy hackathons that we're doing. But it's way more than that. But yeah, it's a lot that we're trying to do to help them stay safe.
And this is the reason, Jared, with all that you do, and this is the reason why we wanted you here with us today, is because we want the world to know that there are people that are developing and innovating with the betterment for people in mind and our young generation, because who is protecting and who are defending our youth, who are defending our young people from these tools that are so used by these heinous predators in this world that are doing the things that they're doing. And yes, I know that this is the GatherVerse You're Fired Layoff Summit. But if you do find yourself in a situation, GatherVerse, where you are laid off and you possess skills, consider using your time to work with people like Jared, or to establish your own foundation, or to volunteer at the different companies and platforms that are working to help protect, educate, and safeguard not only ourselves, but our young people and our youth. Jared, our gather was well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next is our last roundtable discussion for the Year Fired Summit. As quick as it came is as quick as it goes. We'll be dealing with the new reality, preparing our youth for tomorrow's world, along the lines of what we just had with Jared Arms. With GatherVerse, we meet at the intersection of emerging technologies and humanity. It's almost emotional hearing some of the things that we have our guests share and the things that they work on, because it's just wonderful, just like so many of the panelists that are about to join us and that have already been with us, that people still care. I don't want to wait for an incident to happen to care. I'd rather care before the incident happens. May our gather be well.
Hi. Well, greetings everyone. How are you? And we are very happy to have you once again here. Thank you, Christopher and Jared. That was a very great conversation, and it left us as who is caring for youth. I think this panel will also help us answer who is caring for our youth. And we are here to tackle on the topic on the new reality, preparing our youth for tomorrow's world. So basically, we are here for the youth. And with me, I have a very phenomenal panelist who are going to help us understand more about the youth. And I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. We will start with you, Megan. Please be brief, and then we will pass it on until we get to Paige. Megan?
Hi, I am Megan, co-creator of Tools for Transformation. I'm a holistic health practitioner, very passionate about assisting our youth connect with their innate authenticity, because I think that is key and core as humanity moves forward.
Great. Dorcas?
Thank you, Lynn. Happy to be here. Full name's Dorcas Nerito. I work very closely with the youth. I support universities in just making them transition into the industry, preparing them with skill sets that are able to adjust them from the theoretical side that they have learned into what is required by the industry. I'm the founder of IHR Solutions, where we equip SMEs to understand how best to utilize human resource, but most importantly, prepare the talent to be ready for the industry. Thank you, Lynn.
Well, welcome. Brian?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Brian Yurchak, the founder and CEO of Parallel Worlds. I'm passionate about bridging our physical and digital worlds meaningfully to, as Megan said, help people authentically express themselves. And we have a immersive digital twin of Earth. And so we help individuals and businesses deploy immersive media content with geolocational awareness.
Brilliant. Maria?
Hi, I'm Maria. I am a publicist. I work with futurists, technologists, ambitious entrepreneurs, amplify their voice and their work, and just get what they're doing recognized, essentially. So yeah.
Grateful to have you here. Dalvin?
Hello, everybody. My name is Devin Baldwin. I'm a WebXR developer and educator. I teach kids how to build immersive worlds utilizing WebXR technologies like A-Frame and 3JS. And I also have activated numerous online experiences for a number of companies, and I'll keep it brief.
Thank you. Paige?
Hello, thank you for having me. And yay, I love GatherVerse. Great to gather together again. I am the founding director of Better World Museum, Horizon Art Museum, and Women in Horizon. I have worked with young people and teens for over 20 years in museum and VR education. I've drawn a VR garden with over 4,000 students and really happy to be here. I also work at the Virtual World Society and Bit Space Development, both of which implement initiatives with young people.
Thank you, Paige. It's lovely to see you once again here. And let's put a premium to this roundtable. And we will start with you, Devin. How can we forecast the skills likely to be most valuable in AI-dominated job markets 20 years from now?
My apologies. I got a call on my other phone. But yes. So the thing about AI, the thing about it being an AI dominated space, the future, ultimately what AI is meant to do is to do the things necessarily we either don't want to do or to help us do things that we would like to do. And in a perfect world, AI will take over as far as more so be a base for the things that we don't necessarily need to do so we can focus on things that we would like to do.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as 20 years down the line towards skills, I'd say focus more so on automation, focus more so on robotics, machine learning. It's going to be a pivot in pretty much what we do. It'll basically very much be more technological in a sense, but also we have to have policy in place for the ethical use of AI. Because once we go far enough to a point to where it is truly an AI world, who's to say what humans can or cannot do or how we interact with AI itself? So I think humans will play a very important aspect going forward in the policing or the policy holding of AI and maintaining AI systems.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. Brian, I see you agreeing with that. Do you want to add something to that?
Well, yeah, I think Devin said very correctly that AI can free us up to do a lot of the more emotionally intelligent things. So I would say the most important skills are openness and curiosity. So a lot of people are asking the question, what is it? And I would probably tell them to focus more on what will we make of it rather than what is it. So defining, leadership within themselves and confidence within themselves to interface with AI and use it as a sounding board, right? So you have a conversation with it rather than just kind of yelling into the void, right?
That is totally correct. And let's shift gears. And I want to go to you, Maria. Please help us know what innovative learning models could schools implement to integrate AI literacy as core competence of K-12 education. I'm not familiar with that education system, but I do believe most of you in the Western world are familiar with that. Please, Maria.
So I can't speak too much to the specific model because that's I just work with the people that create that, right? But I think that the important things coming from a communication standpoint is having these models that are teaching them the skills that they will need to thrive in this hyper technological world, right? And so, because people are the most afraid of technology when they don't understand it. And so if you have, and I think like a good example, it's not a learning model, but a good example is the great outcomes they're seeing with gamification in schools, where it's like they're learning in a fun way. It has good results. I'm not saying this specifically, but making it exciting to learn about it because it is just going to be a part of their everyday, and making them allowing them to understand in a fun way, and just having that be an important part of it.
Yeah, definitely. I see Megan. Megan, do you want to add something on that? Please go ahead.
I love Myla's response. I'm really passionate about the values determination. It's this program by Dr. John D. Martini. It helps us define our highest values. When a child, and then what we do is we help the children find out what they love to do. And we keep, and our job as adults and grown-ups is to help children find out what they love to do and pave the way for them to do that, because that is the key to the next tier of humanity. So, for example, in early childhood, we help these children find out what it is that they love to do. We can use AI. I did this today. I said, how does one become a spa director? Because I'm coaching someone that wants to be a spa director. AI laid out the pathway to do it. So, and just as Brian and Devlin were saying, our authenticity and our passion is what guides AI. This is the key. AI is our helper. AI is not our controller.
Well, that's trust. I think that's an addition to what we had in the previous panel, that AI is not our competitor.
Right.
It's just our helper, right? Yeah. So I'm going to go to you, Dorcas. As AI continues to evolve, how can we ensure continuous learning and adaptability in young people to keep pace with the technological changes?
So I'd like to pick up from everyone was just spoken before me. And one of the few things I've seen is the introduction of gamification, and I've seen it play out very, very well. But just by introducing it doesn't solve the problem in regards to what we're trying to get into, adaptability. It only just creates that environment, because the aim here is we're shifting to a space where, yes, we want to bring in AI into schools, but also we don't want to just, create a lazy candidate, a lazy student. So what the gamification comes to do is enable the critical thinking to be left in the space for the young ones to just play around with. And one of the interesting things I've noticed is, even when it comes to an issue of language barrier, students tend to adapt very easily. So then the hindrances we are seeing right now when it comes to adult learning become an easier path because of the different adaptability. Then again, we have the different segments where you see people have their own personalized way of learning, either because of issues in regards to, even if it's just mental health, or issues in regards to just being divergent, different. How do we show up and ensure this particular individual doesn't lack just the basic education, and we come in and utilize AI? I like the fact right now that, yes, we're seeing AI moving to a space where you can be tutored. But beyond that, how are we able to bring in that space in school and say, yes, we are having a tech class, but we are going to allow the AI to actually take charge and train the students, but in a more systematic and guided manner. So we're not saying, yes, we're trying to eliminate either the teacher or the tutor, but we're saying, what else can it bring to simplify and bring in a different way of offering solutions? So I like how we're saying, yes, AI is not our competitor. AI should be at a point our competitor, because it will enable you to ride on beyond what you're actually thinking about in terms of a simple solution. Even how roads are being made, even how medicine is being looked at. If we remain at status quo, yes, definitely AI will overtake us. But making it friendly and making it be our friendly competitor, it brings in a different level playing field, and also makes actually education more interesting, as everyone has said. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I love your perspective right now, because what I've gotten from you is we now bring in AI not only just as a tool, but as a healthy competitor. I can imagine we have our fellow companies or other competitors who are who make business grow. I mean,
Yes.
competition makes business, healthy competition makes business growth. And AI is now entering this space of competitors. I can imagine a startup should put in their pitch deck, one of our competitors is AI, perhaps.
Yeah, because that's reality now. Yes.
Yeah, it's a reality. Thomas, thank you for joining us. Please introduce yourself before we go to the next question. Tell us who you are.
Thanks for the introduction. My name is Thomas Shiva. I'm the founder of Digital Realm Entertainment, and Digital Realm Entertainment is an end-to-end interactive company that focuses on bridging the gap between the creative and tech sector, and that involves working within the immersive and interactive technology space, where we work on video games, AR/VR experiences, and also at the same time using games and game technologies to solve real-world solutions and other challenges and create innovative solutions that make the world a better place. And other than that, I'm a tech expert. I work in multidisciplinary fields where I'm also an ecosystem builder. I lead the Rwandan Games Industry and Development Association, and at the same time, Inter Africa, or the largest nonprofit gaming organization on the African continent, and amongst the industry leaders on the continent. And I'm happy to be here.
Well, welcome. Thank you so much. I'm going to the next question, and we will always talk about ethics. And this will go to you, Brian. What are the ethical considerations we must teach the next generation to navigate in a world where AI decisions may impact every aspect of their lives? Brian?
Well, this is a big one. Authenticity of or authentication of information and assets is a huge one. So AI has the ability to amplify good information or amplify bad information. So we need to make sure that we have healthy data that is being ingested by AI. And in a world where we can't agree on whether the earth is spherical or flat, that's a huge, huge problem. The fact that we cannot agree on objective reality, that speaks to a big thing that we need to admit first before we port the entire world over into AI, which is that we kind of uploaded the world to the internet in plain HTML text 35 years ago. And now we have to get some pretty serious infrastructure in place. So I think we need to focus on healthy data.
Healthy data, definitely. I think that's something that someone on the previous panel that added, when we rely over so much on one data, it becomes so biased because it's the same information, the same people who fed it. How about bringing in new data? How about bringing in new information? And someone once mentioned about a practical bias that can show up in schools, whereby kids, when they are asking, or students, when they're asking for loans, and the AI can tell you who you are by your name, or can tell who you are by your financial status, and it can be just so biased because of just what your name is, and it just decides, I won't give you a loan. And for another student who is more of whatever it's meant to believe is the right person to have the loan, they get the loan. So we're going to have a very divided society if we're not careful about the ethics. And I see your page nodding on to this. Would you like to add something on the ethical sides of AI?
Yes, thank you so much, Lynn. I'd like to build on Brian's concept of healthy data, right from the core of building that foundation or rebuilding it healthier. As we talk about students, also building in frameworks so that what they share is safe, unable to be exploited, so that they have an AI literacy through the critical thinking skills that some of our panelists are talking about. And then also Darkus talked a little bit about the concept of using it right as our not just as a tool or an ally, but as our competitor, and having those critical thinking skills to stop, to pause a moment, and think more about what do we see here or what do we not see here, built into the skills of students, whether it's through visual thinking strategies or gamification, implementing these concepts within ethical building, and so that young people are participants in the healthy data creation.
Thank you for that addition. We have spoken a lot about personalization of education, personalization of how we train our kids, our young people, building on skills. And I want to go to you, Megan. How can AI be used to personalize education, ensuring that learning is aligned with each student's strengths, weaknesses, and interests? You're muted, kindly.
Technology. So I'm really enjoying everyone. Thank you so much. And what came to mind when I was just listening is a quote that my father used to tell me. And it was something like, believe a quarter of what you hear, half of what you read, and all of what you see. And unfortunately, in today's world, I don't believe that even you can believe 100% of what you see. So I think it's so critical, as Dorcas was saying, and everyone is saying, that it's imperative that we teach these children to trust themselves, to trust their intuition, to trust their guidance. Some children are external, meaning that they get their information from the field, and other people are more internal and they get the information from their internal field. These are tools, I have the chills, that we need to teach the children to match the energy of the AI. Teach the children about their energy centers, their chakra systems, their lymphatic system, their bloodstream, their hormones. These are critical tools, in my opinion. Thank you.
That is wonderful. I think teaching ourselves, our inner selves, the information that comes from our inner selves, learning to listen to ourselves is one of the most critical things that the current education system has missed out on, and this is a better chance to now bring that to our education system. Perhaps anyone would like to add on that before I go to the next question?
Yeah, I'll add to this. Oh, sorry.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so, well, AI can be used in so many different ways. A lot of the ways that we've seen it is in generative AI. So talking about visual, as we've seen here, it can do this to a picture or it can manipulate this video. But in many ways, AI is going to be used to present information to you in a way that you can receive it and your brain learns it quicker and faster. That could be knowing what language you speak, within an instant. Or it could be understanding where your eyes are moving on that particular screen and actually understanding that the interface can be laid out better for you to absorb that information. So there's a lot of ways that AI will be stitched into the infrastructure of the very hardwares that we use to just better get in step with your physiology and your biology. And it will become so elegant and so beautiful that people, they have no idea what's coming.
Yes, and it's already happening now. We see in feeds on LinkedIn, for example, you'll have the opportunity to read something, to listen to it, right? Because AI is already learning that some of us are auditory, kinesthetic, right? We learn different ways. And so that's another thing that we can do to help the children is know which avenue they learn from the easiest, and we take them through that road. Thank you.
Well expressed. Yeah, well expressed. Let's shift gears a little bit to policymakers. And Thomas, I want you to come in on this because I've seen you working with policymakers from your country. What collaborations between AI experts and educational policymakers are necessary to proactively frame a curriculum that anticipates the future tech needs? And anyone can jump in as well after Thomas.
I think when it comes to policy, and that's speaking from my partner perspective, because I wouldn't say that I'm the best expert to say or decide what happens when it comes to AI policy, but it's like for anybody who's a parent, I'm not a parent, but I've grown up, I have siblings, I've grown around kids, and there's that time around when a kid comes to this age where you gotta have this talk, right? The talk. Right now, there's the time where you have to have the talk, but in this case, it's the AI talk with the kids because it is very, very important to not constrain them when it comes to how do they access technology. You expose them, show them the dangers, and then tell them why those limits are there, right? Because certain kids, depending on the age, they can't even make those decisions themselves. And that's on the parenting side, because the moment you have the AI talk with your kids, or if you're a teacher, the moment you have the AI talk with your students, basically it's like having the talk about reproductive health when you're a parent or when kids are learning it in school. It may sound something you shouldn't talk to the kids or something, but it's really, really important. You don't do it, it's there anyway. They're gonna learn it from somebody else, and you're not gonna like the way they learn it, and they're gonna try to experiment and see what's really happening. And then you realize it's something you could abuse when you don't know how to control it, then you're going to find yourself in a really, really deep rabbit hole that doesn't end in any way that is fun. So for the policy aspect, for example, when it comes to education, right now, every educational institution has been scrambling to actually find a way to contain or to control, just to find a way to stay ahead of the curve. But most of them are playing catch up because, as you know, policy and innovation, it's like a rat race. Innovation is always running so fast, and policy and everything, regulatory is always playing catch up. And it's never easy for the policymakers. And at the same time, innovators who want to move really fast, they also don't like to be constrained by certain policies. Or sometimes you say, how come somebody who doesn't understand what a tag is, or what a line of code is, or what a neural network is, make a decision that affects us, even though sometimes you don't need to be right, you just need to find a perfect sweet spot, like the balance, where they both agree with each other, because it's never going to be an even race. Innovation is going to be far ahead, and this is just going to be too ambitious. That's how the world moves, right? If you don't have innovators who push everything further ahead, and then the policymakers don't have anything to chase, because when everything is perfect, then what are we chasing? What are we yearning for? So what we've looked at, for example, here, I've been working closely with the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and part of what they're working on is to actually develop the national AI policy, and also to advise the government on the AI policy and its use in the fourth industrial revolution, where you have a lot of uses, and also there's also a bubble happening around the technology, because most of the use cases we're seeing right now is highly speculative. Most people are just using it for fun or to cut corners. There's no real utility for most people. If you say the GPT model has, let's say, 200 million users, the people who are actually benefiting from using that are the people maybe in businesses, and the other people are the people, let's say, for example, in I think, so you have businesses, you also have people in the creative space where you could use it to brainstorm, right? But also at the same time, it has to be a complement, something that helps you be efficient, be good at what you do. And then how do you design policies around that? Because these things, you have no idea. There's hundreds of thousands of people working tirelessly every day to see how those things break, to make sure that they get a screenshot of ChatGPT hallucinating, and then they put it out there, even if it's just one specifically crafted prompt that was supposed to break it. And those are things that are created by humans, they break. So anything, I always say that humans are divergent creatures, we think differently. Even if we were to create something good or revolutionary, we're always going to find people willing to go out of their way to abuse that. And that could happen with anything. I could just walk around with a phone and hurting people with it. You do it 100 times, a phone is no longer going to be a communication device. It's going to be categorized as a weapon. You see, and those are the things you always have to think about during the design policies, because it's very, very important to look at from the outside perspective, and also find the people who actually know how those things work, the experts, and the people who are going to benefit from that, and find how you can better serve all of them.
Definitely, Shiva. That is such a very strong sentiment, especially with the policymakers and innovators. There's always a rough friction between them, but they always have to come together. They don't have an option. We have to come together as stakeholders and do this ethics thing. And as well as our parents, this is another topic to talk with our kids. Darwin, I saw you nodding with the policy aspect of things. Do you want to add something to that?
I did, but Thomas put it so beautifully. I mean, what else is there really to add? But as far as all I can really say, as far as collaboration goes with these two entities, it goes back to what Megan said. It's like you have to ask, you have to be open. The kids have to feel like they are heard. You begin change when you ask kids what they want to be, what they want to do. The current system of education needs to be dismantled in total. It doesn't work for us anymore. It was made for, you know, industry, factory, and it's still been in place, but we're not the same people we were. We've evolved, we're new. We think different ways, we learn differently, and that needs to change. It needs to be adapted. It needs to be replaced with more project-based learning, more hands-on makerspace type learning initiatives, being able to be hands-on and being able to introduce kids to something that they can grasp, something that they can conceptualize. And it needs to be for the future. Where we are now in education, it's very much still the same run of the mill. And then people graduate and they're like, why can't I find a job? Well, because they trained you to be what they were, but they're not that anymore. We've evolved. So education needs to evolve. And I see a lot of great initiatives happening to make that happen.
Actually,
Yes.
if I may add something to what you just said, there is a concept beyond, as we have a lot of great experience in creating interactive experiences in the virtual worlds. When you talk about gamification and specifically targeting kids, there's an aspect when it comes to education through play and first principles learning. There's something called constructionism, right? Kids learn better when they are able to build things. And the concept of constructionism is something that we've been trying to experiment into through various approaches. Where how can you gamify education? And I believe that's the new wave of education, because when you look at how kids evolve, often they're able to create much more things in a more divergent way as kids, because they think laterally. They don't have any template they adhere to. But as they go through these specifically crafted education systems, in the end, they end up sometimes creatively numb, so that they only know, sometimes they just know how to sit in class and answer exams, or they just know one topic, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, incremental difficulty increase, or just know one topic. Basically, they are hyper specializers, or they just know about one topic. And when you get into the real world where it's very dynamic, you can't just increase difficulty dynamically. When you talk about things like the way you evolved in a video game, you have this called path to mastery. Sometimes you don't know what boss you're gonna face. In real life, you face problem X, even though you learn to start from A, B, C, D, and then you don't know how to adjust your resources, your intellectual resources, depending on the challenge you're facing. And then in the end, it becomes very, very challenging, because it's not that because you can't, it's just because of the way you learned. And people who are learning in a hands-on environment where you say, aha, this is a pen, how do you build a pen? And then you start with the basic principles of what makes a pen, and then you start on how do you actually get to a pen, and then you get to learn every individual piece, which means after you're able to build this, you can disassemble it and you can build something else that isn't even a pen. You can build, I don't know, a pen 2.0, who knows? But those are the best examples that I could give. But other than that, you need to interact. It needs to be something that has a goal. Just like the way you always just chase something. You may not achieve it, but in between you get somewhere. You move the needle. It doesn't have to be about just answering exams and stuff, because he put it so well that
yeah,
that that you have to actually have a system. And I think constructionism, building things, kids are the best way, are the best place to start, because when you look at kids, they're highly creative and they are like the best copy machine you will ever find. Whatever they see the adults do, they can copy 150% better.
So definitely, Thomas, and we hear you. Thank you for letting us know about how kids. It's very good data, and we can learn so much from that about kids. And let's shift to environments, especially virtual environments. And I'm going to you, Maria, and Delvin or Paige, who you're very experts. You're experts in virtual worlds. You can jump on these. How can virtual reality and augmented reality, powered by AI, be utilized to stimulate real-world challenges for students in safe environments? Maria.
I think so. I know for me as a kid, I can't speak because I don't have a ton of knowledge in youth, but I can say for me as a kid, if I had had the opportunity to take things out of just the boring textbook and like essentially get to live them or experience it like just on a different level, I think I would have been a lot more interested. I don't know. I know that things have evolved since I've been in school, but I would just say that it just gives you one more level of understanding, and like obviously, especially like in history, you can't go and actually live that. So this is the next best thing, and I think that it allows kids to use a part of their brain that will allow them to imagine things and just kind of take things in more than just in the textbook that you're reading about some place that was from 2,000 years ago, and it just it brings it to life. And I think that's all I can really say to it. But I would love to hear what people who actually are like creating VR things like this have to say about that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that contribution. Megan, please go ahead.
I'm not sure if I understood the question because I'm not a techie, but what did come to mind is we could show children like a simulation of a traumatic event or an experience that they may come across, or perhaps they already did. And then you use a trauma resolution technique where you break it down into increments. This is huge. I'm getting this download because one of my passions is how can we help children remyelate their brains, replasticize their brains, get back into their prefrontal cortex after the trauma they've had in being stuffed into closets for 4 years during COVID, I'm sorry for being so blunt. But this is a way that we could do huge trauma reorganization utilizing AI. We get the children like in a classroom on a screen going through some things and just break it down in a group. And these children, we can help them reorganize their nervous systems through breaking things down into little chunks and pause and breathe and share and write a story and share and let's color. And you get the idea. Oh, and one more thing. I got a quote by Oscar Wilde. I am not young enough to know everything. Our children know everything. And that's the flip that we're talking about with the education. Children come into the world knowing everything. Their central nervous system, for the most part, is divine and pristine. And it's our job to learn from them and help them keep that system pure.
Definitely. I still have a few time left, but let's jump into AI first. And I want to address this to you, Dorcas. In what ways can AI-powered analytics predict future career paths for students, and how can students or schools utilize this information?
So that's a great question. I think one of the things, and I'll just pick it up from the previous discussion, when you're thinking about VRs and everything, the simulation actually really helps any person who's thinking of, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a surgeon, take it up, real life experience, feel it as it is, and then get into your memory set and saying, okay, this is exactly what I'll be doing on a daily basis. Am I ready for it? Can I handle it? Or what can I do to actually take up the role? So what I've seen, and this I picked actually from a conversation I was listening to, he's called Mo Gawat. He was in the Diary of a CEO. And what he says is how you handle stress, and it's related when you're choosing careers, really matters on how your emotions are. So if you've gone through a really bad traumatic experience, you find yourself shielding yourself from that memory. But then again, he did a study where he asked around 100 people, what if that particular memory was erased? Would you, and this is like after 20 years, would you still want to take up some of these roles? And half of the people were like, no, that pain I went through made me become somebody else. So yes, the AI would come and enable you to see the environment. But then again, you discover that the reality you're living in enables you to reinvent yourself in a different way. And some of these things are the ones you really don't want to remove it from reality at all. But also you want to bring in AI to simplify, I wouldn't say the confused segment, but the lost segment where they would take maybe probably 10 years into choosing a career and they stick into a whole back and forth grind. I mean, if you look at the great leaders we've had, you will discover that they went through a phase of loss and then they got into self-discovery. So Steve Jobs was good. He was good at all. But if he had that opportunity to skip that gap, maybe he would have been good, but he wouldn't have been great because, again, resilience tends to bring in the natural effect of growth. So I believe AI would be really good, especially when we're thinking about solving world problems, where we're saying, you know what, we're running out of surgeons in X area. Instead of just transferring labor, what can we do? Can we rechannel and bring in the conversation to have more people take that as a career, as opposed to just, moving bodies, because it never solves the issue. Yeah. And I can talk more and less, but let me keep quiet because of time.
Yeah, that is a very strong opinion and a suggestion perspective, I would say. We only have much time, but we're always having these summits and we always welcome everyone to express themselves. And to you, Brian, this is the last question, and I ask you to close us off. What safeguards should be implemented to protect our young people from potential biases and harm caused by AI systems?
Well, I would go back to us again. AI is not separate from us. It is us. We created all of this. And the biggest thing we need to do right now is take responsibility and accountability for this, right? So we need to stop viewing AI as separate from us. We need to understand that it is us, and we need to put better stuff into it to get better stuff out. And to wrap this into what we were discussing before, is kids are getting educated all the time. In fact, they're much more outside of school than they are inside of school. So we should start focusing on where they're spending all their time and attention, social media, and turn it into social impact media, which is why we created a digital twin of Earth where everybody can manipulate, simulate, and express themselves both creatively and functionally on reality, not escape your reality, reshape your reality, I think, as Dorcas was just saying. So now if I'm into meteorology, I can simulate hurricanes hitting Manhattan, 1 billion times over with AI, and understand based on a storm system brewing 300 miles south of here how it's going to hit. And we can better inform our populaces where they're spending all their time and attention, right? So the problem is that our infrastructure and the places that we're spending all our time aren't leading to the outcomes that we want. And we know this. We actually know this. We have people testifying in front of Congress, and we're saying your product is screwed up and it's spreading disinformation and misinformation, right? So we just need to focus more on better input, right? Empowerment of ourselves and our ability to control this. AI is on our leash, right? It's not walking us. We are walking it.
Definitely, such a strong close-up.
To chime in, I wanted to add something. He said something is really, really important that should resonate with all of us. When it comes to artificial intelligence, for me, I don't even know if it's artificial intelligence yet, because then it tells you what if it really is, then you should be scared if you don't have proper alignment. But to actually elaborate, we are all humans and we are not perfect, we are flawed. So you can't create a perfect AI if you keep saying, oh, but this was biased and stuff. But we create in our own image. Even the Bible says that God created a human in his own image, and now we're creating AI in our image, which means every time you say we're putting safeguards, don't call them safeguards to make it perfect. No, you're trying to make it more human, and which means it's gonna get worse. Humans are not perfect. We are very, very deeply flawed, and we have to choose which flaws do we want to implement into the AIs that we build, because that's what's going to define how valuable it's going to be for us. And at the same time, you can also create a purely logical driven machine that doesn't have any, I don't know, I'm not going to say you can simulate emotion, but you can at least try to get a feel of what it is, because it's in the end, it's all ones and zeros at the end. So basically, when you plug the cord off, it's all off, it doesn't exist anymore. But at the same time, because it begs the question, is there a person in there? At the same time, you have to know that once those safeguards are going beyond the proper alignment with the human and moral ethics, you have to draw a line. And the moment, because there's always people fighting for different extremes from one side to the next, different echo chambers and bubbles. And we don't even need to give examples, all know what those are, but if we want to create something that serves humanity, then we need to think of what could benefit humanity on an objective perspective. Because the moment you start trying to say that we need to safeguards because it benefits this side better or the other side better, then in the end we are just creating our own flaws into something that's going to be better at them than us, and it's going to be dangerous to control.
Thomas, we only have much time, and we appreciate each and every of your expressions. Our gather as well. For our fellow panelists or our fellow audience, please, I ask you connect with each other, and we look forward to the next summit, which is the Youth Summit. We're going to continue with these discussions. So please stay tuned to what we're doing at GatherVerse and our GatherVerse as well. Thank you so much. My name was Ling Gitao. I'm the Communications Director for GatherVerse. See you next time. Same place. Bye.
everyone. Let's face it, these are uncertain times for workers, and the threat of job cuts can be a real source of anxiety. But there's a good news. Today, I want to talk about how artificial intelligence can be your secret weapon for reskilling and upskilling. Imagine building a future proof career you can be excited about, even in a changing job market just like this. Technology is rapidly transforming the workplace, and the AI powered automation is a big part of that. While some jobs may be affected, new opportunities are always popping up, and especially in the fields that work alongside AI and other cool technologies. Then, what is the key to success? Well, staying adaptable and having the skills these evolving fields and roles demand. This is where AI platforms can come into picture. They can be your personal cheerleaders on reskilling journey. They can identify your skill gaps, create personalized learning paths, and make learning adaptive. Imagine an AI system that analyzes your skills and experience to pinpoint areas for improvement and focusing on the most in-demand skills in today's job market. Pretty cool, right? AI can recommend targeted online courses and certifications that align with your career goals and the identified specific skill gaps. AI-powered platforms can personalize your learning experience. Think of it as having a super smart tutor who adjusts the difficulty as you progress and recommend resources based on your performance. Let's break down some of the specific AI techniques that can help you upskill or reskill. Imagine data ninjas called machine learning algorithms. They can analyze tons of job posting information to identify the most popular skills in your target field. Then they compare that data to your skills to see where you might need to level up. And here's where AI gets even smarter. They can use something called natural language processing to understand your career aspirations and how you learn best. This combined with your skill gaps can create a personalized learning path that's unique to you. AI can also help in microlearning. It can break down complex skills into bite-sized, achievable learning modules that fit your busy schedule. Plus, they can add gamification elements like points, badges, and leaderships to keep you motivated and make learning feel like a game. And the future of learning is getting even more exciting with metaverse and augmented reality. Imagine practicing complex procedures or simulations in a virtual environment. The metaverse can create realistic 3D simulations of workspaces, allowing you to practice tasks and also interact with virtual tools and equipment. And you can also receive feedback from AI-powered trainers. Communication, negotiation, and leadership, these are all crucial soft skills. The metaverse can create role-playing scenarios where you participate and practice these skills in a safe virtual environment. Think improv classes it's like an improv class for digital age. Imagine AR interfaces that analyze your actions and provide immediate feedback on your techniques or performances. This can be a game changer for learning anything from machinery operation to public speaking, for that matter. The power of AI, metaverse, and AR combined can create a whole new realm of virtual interview preparation. Imagine a system that reads your answers and patterns and help you craft winning responses. This is the future of interview preparation. And highlighting the benefits of AI-powered learning, there are many, but to point out a few, flexibility and personalized learning. Flexibility is because you can learn at your pace anytime, anywhere, and there's no rigid schedules. Personalization is to focus on the areas that matter most for your career goals. While layoffs can be disruptive, they can also be an opportunity for reinvention. By embracing AI-powered reskilling and upskilling, you can future-proof your career and emerge stronger in these ever-changing job markets. Don't wait for a layoff to take action. Start exploring AI-powered learning platforms today and invest in your future. Thank you.
everyone. I'm Sahaj Vaidya. I'm a final year PhD student in Department of Informatics at New Jersey Institute of Technology, and my current doctoral research focuses on looking at ethical implications of AI governance and data-driven policy making. I'm very excited to be speaking at this session, allowing us to explore the potential interactions of AI and the emerging landscape of metaverse. So, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers involved in the committee of this session and giving me this opportunity to present my thoughts to this diverse range of audience. Today, I'll be speaking on some of the pressing issues like policing the virtual frontier. Can AI be the metaverse marshal? Alright, GatherVerse family, raise your hand if you've ever encountered a troll online. Probably most of us have done so, right? Now imagine the troll with laser eyes and rocket boots in a virtual world. That's the wild west of the metaverse we are building. So the question is, can AI be the sheriff to tame this frontier? Let's face it, moderating online interactions is tough. In the immersing world of metaverse, it gets even trickier. AI is great at spotting keywords, but can it understand sarcasm, cultural nuances, or the heat of moment in a virtual duel? We risk silencing legitimate voices while the truly awful avatars slip through the cracks. This is where the ethical tightrope comes in. We want a free and expressive metaverse, but we also need to feel safe. How much power do we give to the AI moderators? Do they have access to our avatars' every move, every conversation? This raises serious privacy concerns. Imagine an AI cop over a shoulder in every virtual hangout. That sounds pretty spurious, right? Even worse, what if the AI moderators themselves become the bullies? Biased algorithms can silence marginalized voices, or worse, be hacked to target specific group of users. We can't have AI cowboys running amok in our virtual cinemas. So what's the answer to this question? The key is in the title, policing and not replacing human moderators. AI can be a powerful tool for flagging potential issues, but trained humans should make the final call. Transparency is also crucial. We need to know how these AI tools work and what data they are using to moderate our experience. Then the metaverse is our chance to build a new kind of online world. Let's work together, gatherers, to ensure it's a world where AI empowers us, protects us, and upholds our values. Let's make the metaverse a frontier of opportunity, not a lawless wasteland. Feel free to comment down any questions or raise any point of discussions that you have. I hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you.
That's it. It's over. It's done. Be kind. Be compassionate with one another. Reach out to those that you heard from today. See how you can collaborate with them together. For the businesses and companies and corporations that I know is watching that we see that are still with us, that are broadcasting, all of you. Innovate with compassion. Approach this AI era with grace. Consider to be able to enable opportunities as opposed to taking away opportunities. With the GatherVerse community, we come together at such a time of business where this transcends the ideals of industry and everything that we've ever known ecologically when it comes to the fundamental foundation of technical progress. If we do not put humanity first in all of our considerations for innovation, we are building on a foundation of nothing. There are many people that are in the technology community and outside of the technology community that are struggling, that are suffering. People are already paycheck to paycheck. Might we approach our innovation sensibly in these dialogues of conversation, but might we move past conversation and frameworks to actionable impact that's sustainable? I hear the stories from so many different people from around the world. I've met with them. I've been in their homes. I've been in their cities. People want best. And best spells out and translates into decency. Let's get past the hype. Because none of this hardware or these machines that we know it today are putting a roof over your head and food in our bellies. We must begin to innovate forward with a collective cloud consists of ingenuity, of finding and discovering better and alternative approaches to the way that we use technology today. You are not alone. If we even are talking to one or two people out there with the couple minutes I have with you left, if we're even able to reach one of you, I dare you to do different, to inspire different. The world of startups and lab to funding and lab to market, the startup community is bleak for funding. People can't get funding. People can barely even get in a pitch presentation, even if you have a pitch deck ready. The so-called promise of what you entered into and the vestiges of the workforce of the world has now been disrupted. And even though a rock hits in the middle of the ocean, though its impact is swift, the ripple may yet soon to become. Just know that you have a friend with me, Christopher Lafayette, and know that you have a friend with the GatherVerse community. Come as you are. No matter the color, no matter the gender, we welcome you. We hope that this community has been of value to you. We hope that you'll keep safe and well. We hope that you'll share this message, that you'll join us for our next GatherVerse summit this summer and for our youth summit. We need to hear from our young people. We cannot do this alone. We need you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for taking a moment of your time that you'll never get back to journey and to explore with us. I will chop wood with you if I have the capacity to do it. There are many of you watching that know this now, and there's so many of you that I do not know. I have no idea who you are. I'm a stranger to you, and you a stranger to me. But if we so find ourselves meeting each other in the middle of the forest, as it was today that our gather was well, and until that time again, together, may our gather be well. Thank you. Here. Peace.
In a land where the stars align, a new like a river wide underneath the watchful sky. With the dawn's early light in our eyes, a council of many, a voice so strong, guiding us right where we